Okay, it's 9:01. I see our first speaker, so I suggest we start now. Good morning again to everyone. An important notice before we start this workshop. This workshop is streamed live on Facebook, and it will be recorded for later upload on YouTube. So if you wish not to be recorded, please turn off your camera now. Thank you. So hello again. My name is Laszlo Friedmann. I'm an AI strategist at the Fraunhofer IAIS in Germany, and it's my pleasure to moderate this AI4Media Workshop today on the topic, the European AI on-demand platform. This workshop is part of the AI4Media project. It is funded under the European Research and Innovation Program Horizon 2020. It is composed of 30 partners working in the areas of AI and media. The objectives of this workshop are first, giving an overview of the AI on-demand platform. This includes the platform itself, how European AI networks can cooperate on the AI on-demand platform, and the regional dimension of this platform. Second, we will focus on the AI4EU Experiments service, which is a major part of the platform. This includes the AI4EU Experiments part itself, the interoperability between AI4 Experiments and the Fraunhofer mining platform, and a tutorial session in which it is shown how to integrate AI4Media software modules into AI4 Experiments. I think this is an exciting plan for today, and I'm sure our speakers will do an exceptional job at presenting you these interesting topics. But before we start, I have some house rules regarding our interaction in the Q&A sessions. In each of the two parts of this workshop, we will have 3 speakers and afterwards 1 Q&A session. So please write your questions in the chat, not in the Q&A box, please. And don't forget to address the speakers. To everyone in the Facebook stream, if you want to ask questions, please join this WebEx meeting and ask your questions here in the chat. In the Q&A session, I will then read out your questions from the chat and address the speakers. And the speakers then will do their best to answer your questions. Or you can raise your hand in the WebEx, and then I will request you to directly ask the speaker live in the Q&A session after we are done with the questions from the chat. Each speaker will speak for roughly 30 minutes, and after the first Q&A session and before the second part, we will have a short coffee break of 10 minutes. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker. Dr. Joachim Köhler is head of the Net Media department at the Fraunhofer Institute for Intelligent Analysis and Information Systems, IAIS. The scientific focus of his department is the research and development of algorithms and methods for statistical pattern recognition for multimedia data. Joachim is also the technical leader of the AI4EU project. I'm very happy that he is our first speaker today to introduce and excite us for the AI on-demand platform. Joachim, the stage is yours.
Laszlo, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So I will now share my screen with a presentation, and I would like to give you a first overview about the AI4EU platform and the AI4EU project. I hope you can see the screen now, and I will introduce the topic of the AI4EU platform. Later on, Gabriel, Martin, Andreas, Jens will give a more detailed talk about special aspect of the platform. But first, I would like to give a general overview about this initiative, also the scope of this initiative, and basically also the main results of the AI4EU project, which is really a large European initiative. What is the strategic goal of the European AI4EU platform? I give you here some numbers, so which are really motivating for all of us in Europe. So the estimated volume of the global AI market will increase significantly over the next 8 years. 2 of 3 CEOs believe that AI will influence the business world more than the internet. And so AI is important for our society, for the growth of our industry. So we have to work on. So the situation of in Europe is a little bit problematic on AI. So we see that that Europe lags behind US and China in digital ICT. So United States, China is having more shares in ICT than Europe. Also, the VC funds lagging behind in Europe. So this is signals which we should take seriously. And it's on the other side, Europe is in an excellent shape regarding research, regarding innovation in AI. So we have a lot of excellent researchers, especially here in European projects like AI4Media. We have many excellent research groups across Europe. The number of AI researchers is even higher than in the other areas of the world. And we have a lot of very challenging and ambitious programs on national and European AI topics. And also yesterday, the Digital Europe program was published. So the next European program comes. And so we have all the opportunity to achieve a better performance to bring AI technology into our society and our business. So as this also leads us a little bit closer to the AI4EU platform. We have now the situation that we have a lot of skills in Europe, but we have also a lot of fragmentation in Europe. I mean, you know this. I mean, we have a lot of different projects. We have I think 27 member states. And in all areas in Europe, AI activities have started, are in progress, and it's difficult for the European AI society community to bring all these strengths together. And also, it's important that this AI technology goes in the direction of companies, of SMEs. Europe has a very good SME landscape, and it's more or less at the moment quite difficult for the European SME industry to understand what Europe really delivers in AI research. So, and the AI4EU platform should help to lower this barrier for SMEs and to mobilize the European AI community to collaborate, to exchange results, to exchange research competences, and to bring this topic forward. And really to create a more collaborative AI European landscape, and that this innovation process is even increased. And that's really the idea of the platform. When we started 4 years ago to design AI, the AI4EU project, the Commission asked us to do this, so that the platform helps this innovation process from research to innovation areas in the direction of SME, to these startups, to large companies, to regional activities, and to bring really these excellent research landscapes, which we have in Europe, definitely more to the industry. And so that the platform is a place where people meet, where people or companies find innovation in AI resources, and that we have really the chance to connect even better. I mean, there are many people, many organizations, and that's a one place, one room where they know, here I can go, here can I find some interesting AI competence, AI resource, AI technology, and I can use it in a very direct way without doing a lot of research work on their own. And the AI4EU platform should really deliver this. And of course, I mean, that's a very ambitious goal. I mean, to connect whole Europe in AI technology. So this may be really very, very ambitious. On the other hand, I think we made a very good progress in the AI4EU project with this mission. And I would like to show you some results and the state. So I already said this, so I don't go in. I want to raise here on this slide another issue. I mean, with the AI4EU platform, I already mentioned this. So we want to achieve the one-stop for European AI resources. That's one of the main messages of this platform. And the network activities, Gabriel will say a little bit more in a few minutes about that. I think what also is important that we have in Europe excellent technology, and we have now a lot of activities in the area of ethical and regulatory issues, trustworthiness, certified AI. So that's very strong European values, European direction. And the advantage to have this platform is that this process to manage trustworthiness and certified AI can be improved, because then there's the one place where these processes to certify AI can be bundled, can be better centralized and checked, and motivate people to do this, and to provide partners looking for certified AI that they really find what they need. Here you see different levels of trustworthiness. It's just an example to show you that this will become more important in Europe. And this is also one strength in Europe, that we have this process of trustworthiness and certified AI. So let's come to the project AI4EU. I think I would like to explain you a little bit the background of AI4EU. So it's as you can imagine, with this mission, so the project is also quite ambitious and challenging in many areas. And I think this project is really the enabler for the platform. And so the project has started more or less 3 years ago. We have now 6 weeks to go. So in 6 weeks, the project AI4EU will be finalized. So the volume of the project is quite substantial. It's 20 million euro, but it's also distributed over 80 partners across Europe. And that's really nice. Also, I show you later on the list of the partners. So we really have from all member state partners. So it's an excellent consortium. And but it's also, as you can imagine, so the size of this consortium brings also some challenges regarding coordination, regarding interaction, and so. But I think we have very strong work packages here in the project, and here we really achieve to strengthen the European AI landscape and to really accelerate innovation with interoperable software component, and use it in this AI experiment platform, which will I describe later. So at the end, so we want to lower the AI adoption barriers by providing AI assets, AI solutions, and AI4Media is also one of the next projects which is capable to bring new AI resources to the project, and especially for the media industry. And the media industry is, of course, one of the main industries using AI. Here's the work package structure of the project, and it covers more or less similar areas than also AI4Media. We have platform development, work-related work packages like work package 2, work package 3. We have the ecosystem. Gabriel will talk a little bit about this. We have a work package on pilot experiments with a platform. So very interesting, fascinating use cases in all different areas of applications. We have a very strong research work package with work package 7, which is led by Alessandro. So here, future driven research topics are addressed. And we have the open call program, which is now also in the final phase, which bring a lot of new AI application to the platform, to the community. And we have work package 9 with a strategic research agenda. So the University of Bologna is driving this work package. And we have a strong work package on ethical issues, on legal, cultural, social, economic values with ethical observatory of AI. So you see, it's a very ambitious project with a lot of different areas. And one core topic, of course, is the development of the platform. And what we have changed a little bit during the project is that we involved even the work packages which were at the beginning not really dedicated or foreseen to develop platform features. So we have changed this a little bit during the project so that all work packages now are capable and willing to provide substantial contribution to the platform development. And I don't go in the details here, so it's listed in the boxes what the different work packages bring to the platform. And this is really what we want to achieve in the project, that the development of the platform is maximum open to others, and that people, partners can contribute. It's also, of course, here's a list of, I think, all the 80 partners with their logo. So it's, again, large consortium, and we're very proud to have leading partners of the European AI landscape here in the project. But of course, I cannot go in detail here with a list of partners. So give you a little bit overview about the platform. So this is the entry of the platform you find here. So here you see the web page. I assume that you were already here on this page of the platform. So we have the platform is called AI4EU. So this is important to know. So we change during the project the site name, and so here we have a lot of information about AI. So about AI community. So Gabriel, that's your part later on. Business industry, we have all the use cases. We have the research areas. Here also there's information about AI resources, education topics, ethics services. So this will I describe a little bit later, and news and events. So we have a lot of news regarding the project, regarding European AI activities. That's a platform you should go. You should try, you should navigate, and that's, I would say, the information center of the European AI landscape. So, and it's also used for collaboration, for communication, to drive work groups on different topics, and this is a communication information side of the European AI landscape, AI platform. Of course, it has to be updated regularly, so we have a strong team to do that, and new areas will be added, but at the moment it contains already a lot of information about different AI activities in Europe. So the other important area, so which is Martin's talk in I think 1 hour, is about the AI experiment part. So that's the other part of the platform. So that's a platform to do AI, to apply AI, to practice AI, to carry out AI experiments, to build AI application, to find AI resources. So if you go to the main platform, you can go to the area of services, and then you are forwarded, redirected to the AI4EU experiment platform. And here with this AI4EU experiment platform, you can do AI research, AI application design, etc. So, and I will give you a rough overview what we do with the AI experiment platform, or what you can do, but the details will be later on described by Martin. So I don't want to give too much details. But I want to give you some information about the development process of the platform. We said during the project that it's really important that also the platform development is more done in a community-based approach, so that this is not done only by one organization, one company. So it's our platform in Europe. So we have to care about the platform, all the different sites, all the different partners. They should be interested, and you keep awareness of the platform also if partners here in the call of are participating in the development of the platform. And I think we must get really the spirit. It's our platform. We have to work on this. We are responsible that the platform will be used, will be enhanced by functionalities. And so we want to create this development process as open as possible. So in the project, we have started in the project to activate all work packages, the main partners of the work packages to do so. So the source code is open. So we put everything on GitLab. So, and we have tried to involve as much as possible ICT 48-49 project like AI4Media to participate and to contribute to the platform. And therefore, we have established the so-called Technical Governance Board. It's kind of working group. So we meet once a month, more or less, depending on the topic. So Friday, so Friday next week, we have the next meeting. Normally, we have around 20 to 30 attendees. So we have a large mailing list. And so here we have technical discussions. For example, in the next technical governance board, a chatbot system will be will be presented by Force. Then features of the AI experiment platform will be shown. Integration strategies, Gabriel will show strategies how to integrate with the platform, and so on and so on. So it's a really technical meeting, and then of course it's important to have also resources to do the integration. But we have many projects, as I mentioned, in ICT 48-49, which have resources, and then we have to plan what featured, what new functionality will be integrated in the platform. So you please feel invited also to attend this technical governance. Martin and me, we share this board, and we have also regular visitors from other projects, especially ELG, European Language Grid, is participating every time. So, and that's a brilliant way to meet also other projects and other technical people. So here you see a short overview about the architecture. So I don't, again, not so much details, but I want to show that there's also an architecture behind these the AI4EU platform. I mean, this information cockpit, this information communication side is done with Drupal, with a Drupal instance. And here we have also split the Drupal development across partners now. The AI experiment project is more related to a system called Acomos. So we have initially used Acomos to do all these kind of services. So the important keywords in this areas are Kubernetes, Docker containers, pipelines, marketplace, which are everything is included in this large framework, and it's really dedicated to build AI applications. Then we have some areas from some other partners in the area of search, but I think what is quite new to all of us, so we decided a few weeks ago that as login server, we will use a European login server, the ECAS system. So we are well connected to the ECAS people. And so the Drupal and the Acomos system are now integrated, attached with the ECAS system. So this login mechanism is used to make it's easier for European participants to log in. So again, TGB. So we have regular meetings. Next meeting is in next week, end of next week. So feel invited. So we have a lot of interesting topics. So, and I think that's one issue. Now I would like to give you a little bit more insight of the platform now. So with some selected services. So I don't have the time, and I don't want to introduce everything, because Gabriel and Martin has also prepared a presentation later on more detail. But I would give you again some ideas, some overview of what you can do now with the AI experiment part. The experiment part is really to find relevant AI resources, normally as in a Docker format, which is important, which is I would say also state of the art at the moment if you deliver software. So here you find Docker images where you really can apply in your application, or where you can do AI research with. You can also share and collaborate with the platform to do common research and development with the resources. You can deploy this. You can use existing tools which are also attached to the platform. And here you find some of these areas. What we normally do. What is a process for a user? For example, for an SME, so an SME which wants to build an AI application. So you can find a resource in the marketplace. You have to navigate in the marketplace if you find an AI resource for a specific topic. And we have already now more than 100 resources in this framework which are ready to use. And this lowers the barriers. Otherwise, you have to go to other sites and install everything and so on. It's much more complicated. But here you can really find an AI resource, check it out, and you can design this also in the design studio and combine this with other AI resources. For example, if you have a data source, you can use a data broker to access relevant data sets. And I think what is also very important, it's if your AI application is ready, you can deploy it quite easily. You can either deploy it locally on your machine with some technology, so that's the deployment process of this platform, or if you have a cloud environment, you can also deploy it in a cloud environment. So what AI4U, maybe this is also important to say, what AI4U doesn't offer at the moment is a cloud environment. AI4U is not a cloud hoster. So we had also this discussion a little bit already in AI4Media. So AI4U has no extra resources for cloud capacity. But I assume in the future this will come. There are future activities like IAX, Eurocloud, and so on. So we hope to bring these cloud resources also closer to the platform. But many partners have already access to cloud environments and also have some private clouds. So that's possible to deploy then an application to a dedicated cloud environment. And if you have a AI application ready, so if it's created, if it works, you can publish again in the marketplace. So and the marketplace is a brilliant place where you can offer your AI resource, assuming we have a lot of AI resources in the catalog at the moment. We have more than substantial, more than 100. So if it's really in a kind of app store for AI application, AI data sets, AI tools, companies will go to this site and look for an AI application. And I think it's a good idea to bring your AI application, your AI tool to this platform. It increases the chance that your AI application or AI tool is used and that you can make further projects or further business. And I think that's the last technical or last slide from my side here. So the marketplace is important. So in the marketplace, we have ready-to-use Docker containers, which you really can check out, which you can use in the design studio to combine this with other Docker containers. We have a publication process established in the project to make sure that the quality of this AI resource, which is published, is good enough to be published. And we, at the moment, we cover a broad area of AI categories from all different areas. That's really fascinating that we have from deep learning areas, from symbolic area, AI resources in this catalog, in this marketplace. And I think that's also the perfect handover to AI4Media. In AI4Media, we have also a lot of very nice research activities, a lot of interesting use case, and it would be, of course, perfect if we are capable, and we have already started with that in Work Package 7, to bring AI resources from AI4Media into this AI on-demand catalog. And of course, in this workshop, we want to increase awareness and motivation to do this and show how to do this. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. And of course, later on, I'm happy to receive your question. Thank you very much.
I think you are muted, or I cannot hear you.
So, Laszlo, you are muted.
Yeah.
So, Laszlo.
Laszlo, hi.
Yeah. Laszlo, no, something. We don't hear you.
I'm sorry, I was muted.
Yeah,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, Joachim, very much for your presentation. It's about this exciting platform. Again, to everyone, I would like to invite you to post your questions if you have some and address the speaker again. and we will then later collectively ask in the Q&A, and I will later then ask the questions in the Q&A session after our next two speakers. And our next speaker is Gabriel Gonzalez Castanet. Our next, he is a EU grant manager and senior research coordinator in the Insight Center for Data Analytics at University College of Cork. He holds a PhD in computer science and technology on the topic of applied modeling and simulation of energy-aware cloud computing environments. And he was and is involved in multiple EU H2020 projects like ReCap, Cloud Lightning, or AI4EU. And so, without further ado, please, Gabriel, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, and thank you for inviting me to give this speech and to present to you what we have been doing during this time around ecosystem, but also around I would like to introduce a bit about the content management system that very kindly Joachim introduced a few words. This work is mainly developed by a more or less big team, so there are plenty of people involved, but this set of slides and part of the work has been also done with, I would like to mention, with Alessandro Safiotti from Orebro University, that he has been pushing also a lot this platform. So in this slide, what I want to emphasize somehow is the point that Joachim mentioned about the main high-level vision. So it's important that to remark that the AI on-demand platform is a platform that has been developed for everyone. So and that it develops, or it put the seed for building this platform that has around a set of other main core activities, like, for example, case studies. It has open calls, so it has a part for ethics, a part for a scientific and innovation agenda, or a repository of AI assets, etc. But the main purpose is to put together, to create this arena that avoids fragmentation on one side, but also enables this transfer of technology from research to innovation. So that's in a nutshell the main core activity of this project and of the next steps. One of the things that we have been doing during these 3 years, almost 3 years, have been well, the AI landscape in Europe is something that has been changing a lot. So it's something that is not static. I would say, but there are more projects coming. There are more groups interested. There are more companies created. There are associations growing, associations merging, and this is a landscape that is quite challenging. We have been plotting this map, and we have been iterating over this for some time, also in cooperation with the Commission. And you can see different strands for Digital Europe. You have the Digital Innovation Hubs, for example, that my colleague Sergio Gusmaroli will present to you later in the next talk. Sorry, we have the Horizon Europe associations, etc. But if you take a look to Horizon 2020, you see a square where it's positioned AI4EU. In that place, we have also ICTs 49 that are the exploitation channels that the Commission pointed to be a perfect fit for extending some services or for delivering more services than the ones that are existing now, and that I will briefly mention. And also the networks of excellence that of course, you know very well what they are. But there are also another 3 that are based on different topics that are tailored, human AI or release. So if we iterated a bit on this map, if we take a look to the next steps of the landscape, so the AI4EU, that I also will mention a few words about that. The AI4EU will be continued through the AI on-demand platform. So you can see here in the Digital Europe and also in Horizon Europe how this is going to be continued. So the AI on-demand platform will have a natural position there and will be continued. But also, if we take a look to the Horizon 2020, we see not only one single project, but we see also a cooperation in the landscape through many different projects, not only ICT 48 or 49, but also through different projects on digital innovation hubs, networks, or projects around ICTs 38, ICTs 40, also on robotics, etc. So the landscape where AI4EU is currently positioned or is working is quite broad, and that's the main aim, to try to create this umbrella, to try to create this tool that everybody can use. That's the main idea. So if we focus in this red square that I have here, I'm going to somehow zoom it to explain a bit of more in detail what does it mean, that square. So the main idea is around these projects is that they create or populate or they provide tools, mechanisms, research, etc., that are deposited or that are delivered or exploited through or that are in the AI4EU platform, in any of the parts of AI4EU platform. So it could be extending the services, it could be assets, it could be even using it. So there are many ways to make use of AI4EU, and that is in the same time exploited by different SMEs, used by different SMEs, and in this case we have 6 ICTs 49. I will mention about this later. So expanding this view a bit towards the innovation and positioning some of the projects, I also wanted to position, for example, what is the place for AI4Media. We have different verticals, public sector, energy market, manufacturing. Of course, this is a platform that started 3 years ago. It's not like some other platforms that could be from States or any other place that they have maybe 20 years or even more of lifetime. So this is a very young platform in terms of age, but at the same time we are already a lot of people, and we are slowly, but not so slowly, covering the different verticals. And you can see in this slide how some of them are covered. For example, manufacturing, that is one of the sectors that is stronger in Europe. We are having there, for example, 6 projects already cooperating and working, and they will be also positioning assets in AI4EU, or we have in the energy market an ICT 49, Copernicus, for DIH, DIH4AI, or even from cloud edge infrastructure, we have bonds apps and cooperation with the European Open Science Cloud currently. So I want also to mention, I know Joachim already pointed this, but it's important that to emphasize that what is AI4EU and what will be, how this is going to be in terms of ecosystem and in terms of next steps. So AI4EU started as a project, as a single project that it was ICT 26. At the time, there were no networks of excellence, no ICTs 49. So it was this initiative that the Commission put, and therefore it started as a more centralized approach. This centralized approach was moved as soon as some other projects were working and were cooperating. It was moved towards having a more distributed approach, and this distributed approach is meant to be expanding the initial work that we have been doing. That initial work is, as you can see in the 2 screenshots, is one part that is the content management system, that I will mention a bit, a few words about that and how you can use, you can contribute, you can navigate, or you can take a look, and also the part of the experiments that I will just give a few words on it, because my colleague Martin also will mention to you about that in the next session. So what is going to happen then after this year, because AI4EU will end soon. So what it will happen is that we will have some projects continuing the work that has been undertaken or has been delivered through AI4EU. So this is not going to disappear as soon as the project ends. So it will be continued. There are a community also behind of people working, not only from the projects, also from people that is contributing freely because they believe in the idea and in the project, and that will continue until the next round of calls are awarded from Horizon Europe, and also it will be from Digital Europe. That the program will be released in the upcoming weeks, as far as I know, and then it will be also that will be interacting, cooperating, delivering, extending this project that started as AI4EU and will be continued as the AI on demand. So we identified at least 14 calls this extension. So it's meant to be a big contribution from the Commission to make this happen, and we are moving and supporting this also idea because we believe that is a good idea. So just to take quick look to the part of the content management system, because the next session will be fully on the part of the experiments. So those are more or less the different contents that are at the moment we are supporting. So we are supporting assets, news and events, courses and training, pilots, funding opportunities, but also organizations to be registered there, or projects to input their information in case they want to, and to cooperate and to make use of this. Just mention the web, the URL is 3ws.ai4europe.eu. So we changed the domain for different reasons, but if you want to take a look, you can access there. So this slide is positioning how we foresee, from fundamental research to successful business, how we foresee different projects. I only, because otherwise it would be completely a mess, I only position the ICTs 48 and 49, but the arrows, you can see in the arrows how it goes from left-hand side to right-hand side, from more fundamental problems or fundamental research, or how researchers can have ideas that they can start taking a look and they can start thinking and cooperating on that, how they can make use of these different content types that I already mentioned, and how these are positioned on the different parts, up to how they can scale the strategy, how they can make use of the platform to scale their business, or to make innovators, SMEs, to make their business grow. So this is from fundamental research, using building teams, using partnerships and matchmaking. We have a project that is directly for matchmaking, that we will be using the different the database from the Commission, also from registered users, that they are also facilitating that, and they are building this platform also together with different national contact points, etc. There is in the part of business idea modeling, it will be case studies, success studies, where we can foresee some of them, but we are also seeing how some case studies are already delivered by industry, assets with high TRL, with medium TRL. In business planning prototypes, there is the yellow box. That's something that I think that is a very good opportunity. That is how to get the feedback from customers on those prototypes, or on those tools, assets that are medium high TRL. So that's something that we identified in this scale, from fundamental research to successful business, that it could be interesting, and we are thinking in how to incorporate that. And also scaling a strategy, having funding opportunities, and again, the right partnerships or matchmaking to support those SMEs or innovators that maybe they want to move to the field of AI and they don't have that capacity, or maybe they already have the capacity, but they just need that final push to support them in economic. So what you can find and how you can contribute. So in the platform, you have different sections, different parts. I invite you to explore it, to take a look. Of course, we have a strong team. It could be some. If you find anything that you don't like, that you see that it could be improved, just send an email. We will work on that. So that's it will be even very, very much appreciated. But I invite you to take a look. We have some projects, some organizations already registered that they will be growing, and they will be inputting more assets and more tools. We have a part in business. I already mentioned a few things there. We have a part where you can find, and you will be finding, more open calls and a classification of different assets, different tools that based on these innovation verticals and market verticals that you can see in the figure, but they can be also extended in case there are some of them that they are new, or we want to cover them. And with respect, just a word with the open calls. I'm not going to enter in detail of this, but I want to mention that there are all the ICTs 49. They have 2 million to each to support SMEs, innovators, etc. Some of them they are already open. Some of them they will be open. I invite to all of you to take a look in case you want, and in case you want to apply to any of these. You can drop me an email or any of the projects. Sergio, for example, I'm pretty sure that Sergio Usmeroli, he will give another word on the DIH4AI for this. But you have to know that all these projects, ICT49, they have support for SMEs, low-tech SMEs, and also innovators, etc. The AI Catalogue. There is an AI Catalogue also for not the AI4 experiments. That's the marketplace. Those are the deployable assets, containerized assets that you can play, you can build with the pipeline, etc. But you have also an AI Catalogue that is wrapping those more maybe fundamental research, not only those ones that are more advanced in TRL. One of the things that we are working is in constructing this concept of research bundles. This is mainly Örebro University is doing that, and is these wraps of data asset and maybe a paper that can be the seed for having a strong research or to make it grow. And they are having these access or this search or this catalog on these research bundles, and that will be released soon. So we are working on that. That's under testing, but for the moment we still have that. So we have that catalog that you can access in any way. With respect to education, it's something similar. I only wanted to position this, that is, for the moment, we're having some courses on ethics, but we are linking this. We are not delivering them. We're just using this tool as an aggregator of those courses. So this is something that again, is a tool to be used. So if someone wants to position their courses, etc., so they have to know that there is also this tool at their use, so they can make use of it. A word on the ethical observatory. They have been doing a strong work on the part of ethics. It's necessary that we have this part. I think that this is undervalued in some cases, but the part of ethics for many, from the perspective of many engineers and computer scientists, but is very important that when we are doing assets, etc., or when we are creating AI to be exploited and to be used, this is trustworthy, because it's the seal that Europe is going to have in comparison, and is a differentiation factor that is essential for its use. So they have been doing a great job, and you can find a lot of information there as well. I'm going to say a word about experiments. This is just a word, because as I mentioned, you will see a lot here. But in the services, you can find, if you access through the CMS, you can find the access to this part. Very soon, what we will have is we will have also some other projects that will be delivering more tools for matchmaking, tools for planning. It could be tools for DIHs that Sergio will explain, or for some other things. So we will have these 6 projects. I'm not going to enter into the details of each of these 6 projects, but just a word: Starway for matchmaking, AI4EU for planning, BONSAPS for cyber physical systems, and also AI solutions on deep edge, AI4 Copernicus to create the link with DIHs clouds to make the assets deployable using Copernicus satellite data, energy specific assets for energy mainly, and for the energy market, energy sector, and DIH4AI. I'm not going to enter there, but it's about DIH, so you will hear in the next session, in the next talk. Sorry. Just a comment about because this is also important. One of the things that we are doing for Starway is they are building an NLP engine that will allow to communicate, or SMEs, is mainly focused for SMEs, but they will allow to communicate verbally, speaking in different languages. I think that they are working on 5 different languages with the AI with the AI4EU and future AI on demand platform. But also they are collecting these use cases. They mentioned that they have this survey. I think that is an important point to take a look. So if you want to be oriented to SMEs, but it's a matchmaking service that they are building, and I'm seeing that there are different platforms, different networks interested on this, having a matchmaking service. So my advice or my suggestion would be to don't create 20 and to join the force and try to create a single point for a matchmaking tool, European matchmaking tool. So you can take a look if you want to this project as well, and if you want, you can participate in the survey. How to access? It took a bit of effort to put it there, but I think that it's pretty interesting. Probably you already have an account to the system. If you are registered in ECAS, in the portal of the European Commission, so you already have an account. So you can access using your EU login. So it's as simple as that. You will be redirected to the European site, and from there, you will be into the AI on demand platform, into AI4EU. After that, and you can access, you can contribute. You will see a panel actually for the contributions that you are doing. You will receive a notification once those contributions have been approved, etc. So explore it. That's my word on that. The final slide, I think that this is also quite interesting. Please, people that is more purist on UML, don't kill me. This is not a flow diagram from UML. I diagrammed a lot on UML. This is more to take a look on visually how is the process if you want to contribute onto or to integrate any solution. So Joachim already mentioned the great job that Fraunhofer Institute is doing with the Technical Governance Board. They are chairing that, and they are managing that integrative board for bringing together different tools, different projects, etc. But this flow shows a bit what is that integrative process. So for any integration of any service, and when I say service, there are plenty of ways of contributing to the platform. Could be contributions from depositing assets, from or courses, or anything that is just to deposit it there to be used and accessible from the community, from the perspective of the community. But there are also some services that can be integrated, as Joachim mentioned, a chatbot or any other idea component. So the thing is, if it's a content type, access to ECAS, upload it. It could be news, it could be an event, it could be, we have quite a few news, or so that's simple. If it's a service, if in case it's not a service and it's not a content type, then we have to discuss what it is. It might be a very good opportunity for having a new content type in the CMS or to explore how to do that. In the case that it's a service, then the first step is to go to the Technical Governance Board and discuss it there. So if it's approved and if everybody sees that there is an impact and a benefit on the platform, then if not, it will be a feedback, so you can improve. And if it is, then we need to see to what system is required the modification or the integration. If it needs governance, we need to understand what is the modification on the governance part. If there is no modification on any governance and it's just to add to make an integration that could be more or less seamless, we need to evaluate what is the impact from a development point of view. We need to synchronize the team of developers on the side of AI4EU with the team of developers on the side of the service that needs to be integrated.
Looks like Gabriel lost connection. Very sorry for this. I would suggest now that we wait a couple of seconds and see if he will rejoin. Otherwise, it looks like he was at the end of his presentation and we could continue. But let's wait for a couple of seconds now. Sorry for this. He's back. Perfect. Sorry, Gabriel, your audio, we can still not hear you. Seems like it's not working still. But you're not muted. It could be the microphone.
From there, you can feel it in case now, sorry. Apologies for the problem. So you have a form there. What I was mentioning is that you can, if once the development resources are evaluated, we can proceed with the integration if that's okay. You have a form there. You can register there. You can take a look. If in case you want to, it's mainly to put teams in contact in case you want to become part of that integration board, and or that integration activities for any of any service that you have in mind. It's also a mechanism to contribute. If you want to contribute, you can also be part of that event for helping us. So that's all from my side. So the only thing is that we're building this together with many other projects and with not only AI4EU. So please feel free to drop me either myself, Joachim, Martin, Alessandro, or anybody. This is a broad team that are working together. And if you need anything, just let me know. So thanks very much, and hand over you, Laszlo, after this messy presentation with connection and muted and unmuted. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you, Gabriel. I think the presentation was great. At least for me, I got a really good overview and saw how complex the overall European AI landscape is, and I think you shed real good light on it. So again, to everyone, I see so far no questions. Please use the chat to ask your questions. Of course, you can address them later directly to the speakers in the Q&A session, but also right now already feel free to note your questions in the chat. So our next speaker then would be Sergio Gusmeroli. He is a research coordinator at Politecnico di Milano in Italy. He was director and operating manager of the International Research and Innovation Unit of TXT eSolutions, where he coordinated FP7 funded projects. And since 2015, as a research coordinator, he is coordinating H2020 Factories of the Future. And since January this year, he's also coordinating the project DIH4EU. So welcome, Sergio. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for your kind introduction. And my name is Sergio Gusmeroli, Politecnico di Milano, and I'm the coordinator of DIH4AI project, AI on-demand platform for regional interoperable digital innovation hubs network. So I believe this project is a ICT 49 project. So as AI4Media is ICT 48, this is an ICT 49, and we all together contribute to the ecosystem of the AI on-demand platform. So our relationship with AI4EU is very, very strong, and I will emphasize it during all my presentation. But what AI4EU is, I think you had the two previous presentations, and so it is not my job to do that. I had just to make a statement that what is the relationship between the pan-European platform AI4EU and a network of regional digital innovation hubs. And this is the core of the project. That is, on the one side, the digital innovation hubs could find in the AI4EU platform services, experiments, knowledge, cases that they need in order to perform their job in their region, in their constituency. On the other side, there is a bidirectional relationship, because sometimes there are AI innovations which occur at regional level by SMEs, by startups, which are hardly brought to the pan-European audience, to the pan-European visibility level. And so on the other side, the point is also to facilitate this cross-regional and European visibility of regional innovation. And so this is basically what the project is doing. That is, try to establish these bidirectional links with AI4EU. I have put at the beginning of my presentation a couple of slides about the digital innovation hubs, because really I don't know if the audience is fully aware of what digital innovation hubs are and their origin. So basically, the concept of digital innovation hub is one of the key action line of the digitizing European industry in 2016. And the aim of the whole digitizing European industry initiative was to reinforce European competitiveness in digital technologies and to ensure that every business in Europe, whichever the sector, wherever located and whatever the size, can fully benefit from digital innovation. In this perspective, in the top left quadrant of this picture, you find the digital innovation hubs. And in the work program Horizon 2020, 18-20, you could find some actions which have been called by the Commission under the umbrella of support to hubs, where several projects have been funded and they are active in order to implement the recommendation from the Digitizing European Industry initiative. And you could see that in the action 01, we are talking about smart anything everywhere. That is digital innovation hubs which are focusing on smart systems, embedded systems, cyber physical systems. In the 02, you have robotics. That is digital innovation hubs focusing on different aspects of robotics. In 03, you have manufacturing, and in particular the I4MS initiative, ICT innovation for manufacturing SMEs. In the 05, you have the big data innovation hubs. And in the 06, you have the coordination and support activity for the Digital Innovation Hub network. And there is a CSA, which is currently ending, successfully ending, which is called the DIH network. So this is the landscape of digital innovation hubs under Horizon 2020. And as a matter of fact, you have dozens of projects, and in each project you could find dozens of digital innovation hubs. So as a matter of fact, there is a large ecosystem of digital or regional digital innovation hubs. The digital innovation hubs are currently included in a catalog from the European Commission, the Joint Research Center in Sevilla, which is publicly available. And to be a digital innovation hub, you need to be part of a regional, national, or European policy initiatives to digitizing European industry. In particular, regional dimension is emphasized. To be a no-profit organization, to have a physical presence in the region and a website where you could access your services, and to have at least 3 examples of services that the Digital Innovation Hub is providing to the constituency, in particular to the SMEs. And if you look at the catalog, really you don't have a category media. So, but this is the map of all the digital innovation hubs which declared an interest in AI. And so you could see that there are 434 digital innovation hubs. And I guessed that some of them do also have a sectoral specialization in the media industry. So the point for AI4Media is that we could really, if there is the interest, we could create an ecosystem of AI digital innovation hubs with a smart specialization in media. as we already have in the manufacturing sector, for instance, thanks to the AI4EU project that I'm coordinating. So if there is this interest, DIH4AI could, of course, be of help in order to identify this ecosystem and to provide tools, methods and tools, and you will see afterwards what I mean, in order to manage and govern an ecosystem of AI digital innovation hubs with smart specialization in media. I think also many of you know that yesterday was published the Digital Europe work program for the next 2 years. And one of the actions inside it is the European Digital Innovation Hubs. In this map, you have again the candidate European Digital Innovation Hub, which applied and which put AI as a technology focus. And you have more than 120. So inside this, again, you could find also digital innovation hubs, which are very fond in media, in the media industry. So I believe that there is a strong ecosystem of digital innovation hub, of AI digital innovation hub, also for the media sector. And this has to be coordinated in order to be put in relation with the AI4EU platform. So the AI4EU platform is, of course, our reference platform, but we need really to create this bidirectional collaboration between this wealth of digital innovation hubs and AI4EU. We are doing it through the project, which is the DIH4AI. It's a small project, it's not a big project. And we have 12 partners from 6 European countries. What it is important is that, first of all, as mentioned by Gabriel before, there is an open call, which is currently open. And we will have our first webinar next week, but I will give you more details afterwards. And in the project, as beneficiaries of the project, we have representatives of 5 AI digital innovation hubs, which are located in these 5 regions. The point is that we really need to expand this ecosystem of digital innovation hubs specialized in AI. And this is something that we aim to do with the open calls, for instance, but also with collaboration with other projects like AI for Copernicus, AI for Plan, or AI4Media as an example. And so it is our aim to expand this ecosystem to many other digital innovation hubs with a technological specialization in AI. We are born from an initiative of the European Commission, which is called AI DIH network. This was not an Horizon 2020 project, but it was a tender for the European Commission. And in the consortium of DIH4AI, we have represented the organizations who ran this tender and who achieved very positive results. First of all, creation of a network, of a European network of digital innovation hubs focusing on AI. And in the tender, we trained, because I was also part of it, we trained 30 digital innovation hubs, basically to understand their opportunities for collaboration. So the point here is to break the regional silos of digital innovation hub and to allow collaboration, cross-regional collaboration. And this was in the AI DIH network. In the DIH4AI project, it is not just the cross-regional collaboration we are aiming at, but also regional to pan-European collaboration. So from the DIHs to the AI4EU platform. As a matter of fact, you will see that we received 150 applications. So basically, out of the 400 digital innovation hubs in the catalog, 150 expressed their interest to be part of this action, but for budget reasons, they were not directly involved in the initiative, but they are in our ecosystem. So we already have an ecosystem of 150 digital innovation hubs. What it is important, what is the precondition in order to allow collaboration? Is to speak the same language, is to have a lingua franca so that digital innovation hubs could exchange and share information. And so what is the profile of an AI digital innovation hub? And I'm saying, what is the identity card of a digital innovation hub? Basically, it is in terms of a service portfolio. And so we need a common method in order to define a service portfolio for the digital innovation hub, the competencies, the operating model, and the customer journeys, so that we could be able to identify if there are complementarities, if there are overlappings, if there are synergies to be brought forward. Without a common language, without a lingua franca, it is quite impossible to set this in a structured way, this collaboration. Also because the digital innovation hubs have been born basically bottom-up. So they have been born from regional initiatives and in a very bottom-up way. And so it is time now to structure a bit this ecosystem of digital innovation hubs with common methods, common tools, common language. It is also important, the legal aspect, when you create a collaboration among digital innovation hub. And in this AI DIH network, we have elaborated a framework cooperation agreement where many legal representatives of the digital innovation hubs have written this document, and 25 of them have signed it as a framework for collaboration among 25 AI digital innovation hub in Europe. And finally, we have also created some blueprint for collaboration with 3 basic scenarios that I will describe a bit later. And the 3 scenarios are basically matchmaking, joint matchmaking. That is the collaboration from one digital innovation hub to another digital innovation hub is justified by the need of an SME from DIH A to collaborate with another SME in DIH B. Second is a joint provision of services. So by the analysis of the service portfolio, Digital Innovation Hub could really find opportunities for provision of common services, complex services, where a Digital Innovation Hub is providing just one part of these services. And third, joint development. That is new services that so far are not provided by any Digital Innovation Hub, but they could be provided by a joint project, including several digital innovation hubs. All the results of this study are publicly available, and you have here the website. If not, you can write me, and I will give you the link to the results of the AI DIH network. So on the basis of this tender, there is the DIH4AI project, which is an ICT 49 project. And first objective is that we are promoting an innovation and collaboration platform for digital innovation hub. That is, if you want, some sort of advanced portal where you have for digital innovation hubs, where you have both a collaboration space and an innovation space, and you have the 4 pillars of services provided by European digital innovation hubs. And you see here the 4 pillars, which are innovation ecosystem networking, skills and training, support to find investment, and test before invest. In DIH4AI, we name them BEST services, business, ecosystem, skills, and technology services. Then we also elaborated a methodological framework for DIH collaboration and for collaboration between a DIH regional dimension and AI4EU. Finally, we are developing an interoperability framework, and this is the technical development of the project, in order to allow the interoperability between the DIHware platform, that is the platform of the Digital Innovation Hub, and the AI4EU platform. And I will speak briefly about that afterwards. In addition to them, in the project, we are also including some additional tools and services like ethics by design support. We have lawyers and we have experts in legal and ethics topics inside the consortium, conformity assessment and compliance, and the skills development program. And this is very important, and in particular, the skills development program is in charge of my organization, Politecnico di Milano. Very briefly, the 3 aspects of the DIH4AI. First of all, as I said, we are promoting this DIHware platform, which is an innovation and collaboration platform. It is an open source platform, but as you know, the real value of this platform is in the content, is when you populate this platform with interesting content. And the platform is made of 3 main subsystems: knowledge management, catalog management, and identity management. And it could be used in 3 different levels. Level 1 is for a single digital innovation hub to manage innovation and collaboration inside the regional constituency. And so it is an implementation inside a region, inside a single digital innovation hub. Level 2 is when several digital innovation hubs, for instance, the AI Digital Innovation Hub or the Media Digital Innovation Hub, are together in order to exchange information and collaborate from one region to another region. And this level 2 is now extended in the DIH4AI in order to collaborate with the AI4EU pan-European platform. And then we have some vertical specific implementations in level 3. One example is DIH for industry, where all the DIHs which have a smart specialization in the manufacturing industry, they could advertise, they could collaborate, they could innovate together in a single access point or one-stop shop. It is important to say that we are promoting the best model for digital innovation hub services, and we are going to integrate them with the data, and so to create the best model. Methodological framework is exactly this, the tools and methods that we are proposing for the digital innovation hubs: service portfolio analysis, customer journey, a taxonomy of services, so that each digital innovation hub could append its instance of a service to a 3 levels taxonomy. You see, level 1 is LBEST, level 2 is in this picture, and then you have also level 3, which specify different services inside the categories. In this way, you are able also to match the service portfolio, that is the offer side of a digital innovation hub, with the demand side of a digital innovation hub, which is expressed by technology users, technology providers, students, policymakers, startups, experimenters, and other categories of customers. The result of this is this matrix, where you see services which are related to the different stages of evolution, of maturity of a customer. In this case, the customer is a technology user, which goes through the phases of observation, awareness, experiment, experience, adoption. And the point is to create pathways of services through the collaboration of DIH with another DIH. And so also to identify which are the gaps in the service provision and which are the typical pathways that customers ask for their collaboration with the Digital Innovation Hub. As I said, we have experiments inside the region, and we have experiment cross-regional and region to Europe, according to these three collaboration patterns: joint provision of complex services, joint development of collaborative services, and joint matchmaking. Regarding the most technical part of the DIH4AI, the major aim is to create an interoperability framework between DIHware and AI4EU, and in particular the two main components of AI4EU, which is on the one side the portal, as Gabriel said before, and the experimental facility. In order to do that, we are developing, first of all, a portal interoperability, also because DIHware is based on Liferay and the AI4EU portal is based on Drupal. And the aim is to have a seamless search engine, semantic search engine, so that you could find services, knowledge, assets, keywords of content which is stored seamlessly in the AI4EU platform at the European level, but also in any of the regional platforms of the regional DIHware platforms. The second point is a precondition to allow experiments, region to EU experiments or region to region experiments, which means an interoperability framework for data sovereignty that is based on the International Data Space Reference Architectural Model, where data could be exchanged between DIH and another DIH, and between a DIH and AI4EU. This is valid for both data and applications. So in some cases, it is more convenient to move data. In the other cases, it is more convenient to move the application, crunching the data. And third, experimentation, cross-regional experimentation and regional to Europe experimentation, where the point is to exploit the availability of the experimental Acumos facility in AI4EU. Last point, the open call. The open call is currently open. We are looking for 10 additional experiments in this first open call. You will have a webinar next week, and you can visit our website, DIH4AI, and you will see all the details about this open call. In particular, for this open call, we are looking basically for an AI SME who is providing an innovative AI solution. So this is the basic requirement. And so we need an SME, a technology, an AI technology provider SME, which is going to test and experiment its technologies, its modules in these experiments. At the moment, the media for this first call, the media domain has not been included as one of the possible sectors where the experiment could take place. But an AI SME which developed a solution in the media sector, they could apply by replicating the same solution to other sectors, which are currently in the scope of the first call, which are manufacturing, energy, public administration, agri-food, etc. And so it is not at the moment precluded for the media industry the participation to this first open call. The open call is for mini consortia, and there are two typologies of projects. Type A is inside a region. So inside the region, you have an AI SME leading the consortium, its regional digital innovation hub, and optionally a third partner of the mini consortium, which could be a user SME, a policymaker, or an RTO in the same region, or also outside of the region. And basically, we are focusing on technology services. That is to implement technology services in a region. Second is cross-regional skills technology experiment. Again, mini consortia formed by 3 partners. Mandatory is the SME providing AI solution, its regional digital innovation hub, and in this case, another regional digital innovation hub who is interested in the experimentation. Basically, this second digital innovation hub is going to provide a case, is going to provide the data, is going to provide the user which is going to exploit the solution that the SME is going to develop. And again, we are applying the International Data Space Reference Architectural Model for that. And this concludes my presentation. It is 10:30, so I believe it's okay. And I give the floor back to Laszlo for the panel or the Q&A
Perfect.
session. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much for your
Sergio.
attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Sergio. Thank you very much for giving us an insight into these interesting activities of yours in the digital innovation hubs. Now we are coming, and we are perfectly on time. We have 10:30. We are now coming to our first Q&A session. I have so far only one question from the chat. I will start with this, and I hope that afterwards you are interested to ask the speakers directly some questions regarding their presentations. So the first question we have is towards Gabriel. It was asked, we are working and the question was from Pavlov Torsidis. We are working on a Horizon 2020 project on AI for robotics. It is a toolkit containing different AI solutions to help robotic research integrate AI on embedded systems. Could you provide an example on how we could integrate our toolkit to AI4EU? Could we provide content like workshops and the toolkit itself as a service?
Thanks very much for the question. First, I guess that in the case of the toolkit, if it's deployable for third parties, I guess that then it can be added as an asset per se, to be used, to be deployed, to be accessed, and the people can install it, like in the case of Sarah, you mentioned, in their own institution or in their own DIH or in their own organization. In case it's something to be used as a service, then it has we need to see those three parts that are what is the impact, if it's interesting, if there is nothing similar in the platform currently or any other service. If it's not, so that's the analysis on impact, analysis on governance, what is the implication from a governance point of view of all the processes that we already have and they are moving in place. So what will be the needs from that as a service that needs to be covered. Of course, we cannot integrate a service if it requires some management and who is going to do that management, etc. And the third part, if it will require any development and who will do that development, that's for integration, etc. So those will be the three steps if it's an as a service. The steps, going to the TGV, so sending an email to people from Fraunhofer and Martin, presenting that, and that will be the analysis on impact, let's say, and from there it will be redirected depending on the systems. There is the form also that I put in the slides, if you have a clear view, so that's we can start any discussion for him or for anybody else. In the case of the second part of the question, that I guess that is about workshops, etc., that's a content that I didn't want to. So I didn't want. No, I think it was the presentation was too broad, and I have to trim from any part. There is the possibility in news, events, workshops, etc. So there is a very, very, very well developed section on news and events and web cafes as well. I didn't want to enter there in detail. AI4Media is pretty much aware of taking the continuation of the web cafes that have been run during AI4EU. But if anybody wants to upload, it's just an event or something, is just registering, accessing through ECAS into the platform, making it appears a button that it says contribute here, contribute. It appears a panel with all the different content types, and one of the content types is news and events. So if you access there, you upload the contents, and an editorial board analyze the content, and if it's appropriate, because we need to see that it's appropriate for that is not a fake or is not something that is inappropriate from the perspective of the community. So it will be approved and it will be available online. So I encourage you to upload all the information there. So that will be fantastic, actually.
Okay. Thank you, Gabriel.
If the project is a project, the DIHT02, that is Digital Innovation Hub for Robotics, which means Rodin, DIH Square, Trinity, RIMA, AgriFood, Robol AgriFood, DIH Hero in healthcare, then also DIH4AI could give a hand in order to implement this. If the project is a project in the DIH for robotics domain, DIHT02.
Thank you, Sergio. Anyone else who has something to add to this question? Okay, seems not the case. So I would encourage everyone in the chat also and who's listening to ask the speakers now directly. Please raise your hand, and then I will request you to ask your question.
I think there is another question in the chat from Ricardo.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see it, or shall I read it?
Do you mean the question of Ricardo Lima?
Yes, exactly.
I think this question was already addressed privately by Gabriel, but of course, if you have something to add to this question, I can read the question out loud.
Okay, so just a comment. So
yes,
SHAR is one of the AI for manufacturing projects, research and innovation actions, and there is a cluster of those projects. And there are also two innovation actions, which are AI Regio and a kit for SME. And so my suggestions is to contribute to the manufacturing vertical in AI4EU altogether. And so this could be very good, so that we could factorize our effort and have one single interface to AI4EU in order to make the manufacturing vertical of AI4EU more powerful and more rich. And so I believe that STAR is more than welcome to contribute to it, but I would suggest in coordination with the other projects of AI for manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add a word on that as well. So yes, Sergio is right. So we're having as I show in one of the slides, there are several verticals. One of them probably the most advanced one, because there is more projects supported or funded, or also because in Europe the manufacturing is one of the manufacturing vertical, the market segment is one of the strongest that we have to probably is the strongest. One of the things that there are plenty of projects there. So there are some clusters from a community point of view that they might be interesting to take a look. We are seeing from a community perspective how to put all of them in common. So as Sergio mentioned, there are a few projects, AI4EU, that is from a regional perspective. There is the ICTs 38 cluster as well that are AI for manufacturing cluster. So there are several of these that we're exploring. So, but they are quite strong. In any case, the thing is to see from each vertical what is going to be the people contributing, the community that is like Sergio, quite active, and they are delighted to be helping and pushing in that direction. And yeah, and I think that AI4EU should be the starting point, but from there just to redirect to the broader community that is working in that area. So yeah, I only wanted to extend a bit that part. So thank you, Sergio, for the comment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions from the audience? Please raise your hand if you have a question. Okay. Seems not to be the case, right? Okay, I see a raised hand. Sven Becker wants to ask a question. Please go ahead, Sven.
Yeah, thank you, Laszlo. Thank you for the excellent presentations. I do have a question about the sustainability and the use of the AI assets and technologies in the experience marketplace. And this question goes to Sergio for the digital innovation hubs. Is it what is the main idea of DIH4AI? Is it to contribute to the AI4EU Catalogue and the Experiments marketplace, or are the digital innovation hubs more meant to make use of the resources published by the other ICT 48, 49 projects? Do you have any answer on this?
No, I understand. So I think that, as I said, there is a bi-directional relationship between the regional digital innovation hub and the AI4EU. So on the one side, we could assess the resources and the services provided by AI4EU in order to provide services to our constituency. But on the other side, there are regional innovations, AI resources, experiments, which are generated and born in a region, and which hardly could achieve the pan-European level without AI4EU. And so this is also very, very important, that we could collect regional innovation and make them available to enrich the catalog and the AI resources and the experiments in AI4EU. If this is a physical movement of the content from the region to Europe, or just of the metadata and the description of these resources, this has to be discussed. of course, because there are also points of IPR and ownership to be discussed. But for sure, at least at the level of metadata, at the level of description, DIH4AI is fully available to share our innovations and our resources, not just those developed inside the project, that is the foreground, but also maybe the background, which is in the AI digital innovation hubs in our constituency.
Thank you.
Further questions?
But I have more a comment than a question. So some idea that just came to my mind now while I was listening to Sergio is one could also think about setting up a catalog, not with the technologies that have already been offered in the marketplace, but also with the demands. So I will later talk about this in my tutorial also, but there is the possibility to upload interfaces to this marketplace. And these interfaces could also be interpreted as requests. So like, please implement this interface, help me to find the suitable technology. That's just an idea.
No, for sure, I agree. Yeah. In the DIH perspective, the workflow is that regional SME, as a first step, will look around their own local ecosystem, and then we'll contact the DIH, the respective DIH, and in this way, we don't envisage a single SME to access directly the resources of AI4EU, but we expect to have mediators, and the digital innovation hubs are exactly those mediators. This, of course, implies that the digital innovation hubs are not just bureaucratic entities, but they could also have some knowledge, some people, some experts, which are able to evaluate the matchmaking between the demand on the one side and the offer on the other side. But this is guaranteed also because, you know, in the digital innovation hubs, we have competence centers. So competence centers are entangled to the digital innovation hub. And so this competence center, like Politecnico Milano, for instance, is collaborating with the digital innovation hub in order to.
Okay, further questions from the audience? Okay, seems not to be the case. We have 5 more minutes. So I had also one question. I think this will not address a speaker directly, so I would ask the question in a more general case, and then please go ahead and whoever wants to answer or address it. I would like to know, what would you say are the main differences, and let's say then also the main advantages of this AI on demand platform when I compare it to other platforms from Amazon, Microsoft, or from Google? Where do you see the main differences and main advantages?
So maybe I start to answer this. I mean, of course, if you compare this with one of the platforms from the GAFA related companies, then it's always a challenge to answer this perfectly. However, I mean, I think what is really an advantage on our side is that we have the output of the European projects in our platform. I think the process for bringing results of European projects to such GAFA-like platforms is much more complicated and not wanted probably from many partners. And I think that's I think unique, so that the platform is dedicated to collect the results from European projects and maybe also some national projects. So and then of course we are, as I said at the beginning, I think we are all somehow the project managers of the project responsible that this platform can be successful. And with these resources we get from the European project, I think then we have also the control. I mean, at Google and Amazon, you don't have any control. I mean, what they, of course, provide very well is the infrastructure, cloud resources. If you want to have CPUs, GPUs, it's easy to go to AWS, or it's easy to go to Google Cloud, and they have very good commercial services to do that. This is what we have to attach to. So as what I also addressed in my presentation, I think that the expectation to get benefit from the SkyX initiative, from the European Cloud initiatives, that this can be easier done. I think this is what we have to achieve in the future. And then as we talk about sovereignty of technology, of AI technology, and when we now have also capacity on this cloud side, resources side, I think from the standpoint of algorithm tools data, I think we are already in a very good position in Europe. So this would be part of the answer to compare us with the other platforms. At the end, it's an issue of sovereignty, that we have the control, and that at the end, European partners can decide how the technology is used, for which prices, for which conditions, for which ethical dimension. And so that's one purpose and direction why it's important to have this European AI on demand platform.
Thank you. Gabriel, you want to add something?
Yeah, I want to add just with Joachim's answer, but only to add a minor comment is that we have the commitment from the projects, that's for sure, but this is a community tool. So at the end, this is a tool that is going to be owned by the people, so they can get access to the code, they can modify, they can do whatever they need to do, they can integrate their own assets, not only from the perspective of large companies, but also from the perspective of PhD students, researchers, anybody that wants to promote their work, that they want to share their work. I think that behind the research community, and there's no AI if there is no research, that's super clear. Behind the research community is always that way of sharing, that way of Linux spirit, that I can touch the code, I can play with it, I can share it with my colleagues. That's the main concept that we are putting here as well, in comparison with the other platforms. That is not a big corporation that put a bunch of resources and they have something there. It's something for all of us to be using and to be extending and to be playing with that. So I think that's quite a strong view as well. And it's something that I think that is quite unique in some parts, that definition on our side.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Sergio, one more small...
Yes, very briefly, because I think the other two speakers already emphasized this. First, European values. And so it is not just providing access to AI solutions, but also to provide surrounding services which are going to implement and materialize the European values. And there is the OSI, for instance, service in the AI4EU. So it is a full service for implementing and adopting AI according to the European values. And this is unique. And second, also what Gabriel said, being a European project, Horizon 2020, we are not speaking of all the TRL 9 solution. And so there is an innovation and collaboration environment where we could together between the providers and the users, develop new things, develop new solutions, and contribute to increase the TRL of the solutions. So it is really a collaborative environment with a collaborative spirit, which is the spirit of Horizon 2020.
Perfect. Thank you, Sergio. I think this sets up perfectly the connection to our second part. We'll focus on AI4EU Experiments, a service of the AI on Demand platform to create AI solutions. And without further ado, I want to welcome our first speaker of the second part, Martin Welz. I see he's already here. And Martin is a senior AI solution architect at the NetMedia department at Fraunhofer IAIS. And he is the main contributor to the AI4EU Experiments service. He has over 20 years of experience as an IT expert and software architect, working at multiple IT firms. He even worked as a freelancer for a couple of years before joining Fraunhofer in the beginning of 2019, especially for the AI4EU project, where he started working right from the get-go. So welcome, Martin. We are happy to have you here as our first speaker of the second session, and I'm excited what you're going to show us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Laszlo, for your introduction. So I will start to share my screen. And to make it full screen. Okay, so this is about AI for experiments. And the vision for it is that it is possible to share solutions, experiment, and to collaborate. It is compatible with established AI toolkits. Basically, you are completely free to choose the toolkits that you want to use, that you can sell or buy, also licensed toolkits or consulting, and to try out or compose AI solutions for domain users as well as for experts. So this is the main vision. And how do we achieve this? So this is a screenshot of the catalog of the reusable AI assets. So the idea is to have building blocks like Lego bricks for AI pipelines. And as it turns out, AI pipelines are very well suited for this kind of building block approach. So here's an example of how a pipeline can be built from those modules, from those building blocks. So this is an example of an audio processing pipeline. So we start with the file broker, which makes the audio files available to the pipeline. And then the first step is the segmentation. Then the path is split up into speech to text and speaker recognition. Then punctuation is added. And finally, the audio dialogue creator merges all examples, all results into the complete dialogue in the right order as the output. And for example, if you want to add topic extraction to the pipeline, then we just add one more building block, the green one here, and put it into the right position. And then the pipeline can be deployed and will do the new processing. And the visual editor helps the user to find the right interfaces and the right connection points. So if you look at the interfaces here, they all have small symbols, and the black connection endpoints are the outputs and the white connection endpoints are the inputs. Okay, so similar it would be if you want to switch the pipeline not to process German, but to process English language or French, then you would just switch out certain, you want to replace certain of those building blocks, and it's not necessary to create everything from scratch. You can reuse your pipelines. And that we achieve this, we have the container specification that is necessary and which needs to be imported and adhered to. So it is based on Docker specification, so it's a Docker container, but it needs to have a protobuf interface specification for the public interface. So this, together with gRPC communication, is a very, very important technical building block that enables us to do a lot of the magic that I will describe later in my talk. Here on the right side, you see a specification, an example of such a protobuf interface specification. So it's not really complicated. It's simple by design. You define the messages for input and output, and then finally the services, the remote procedure calls that are offered by this node. It is also possible to add a web UI to this Docker container. So if it's necessary to do further configuration, or if you want to showcase certain properties of your node, of your tool, then you can add this web UI. It really helps the user a lot for direct interaction with the model when it is running. Everything is based on free and open source technologies, no license included, or it's not necessary to buy anything. And there are recommendations for scalability and for training and for GPU support. And recently, we also added the support for gRPC streaming, which means there can be long-lasting connections between the nodes of a pipeline, and we can even add event-based communication. So, very important, this specification is not a lock-in. It's Docker. The result is a Docker container that just have some additional properties, but they can be run and used completely independent from AI4Experiments. So you can use them in Kubernetes, in Docker Compose, or standalone Docker. There is no lock-in that is only usable in AI4Experiments. So it's meant to be an open environment, and if you add certain features to the Docker container, then it is also usable in AI4Experiments. Then intellectual property. So we support open source as well as commercial content and models. So it is deliberately supported to have commercial and proprietary licenses that you can earn money with your models. So each published tool must have a license. It can be open source or commercial or proprietary, but it must be available on the platform so everybody can see what the conditions are. And in AI4Experiments, only the metadata is stored. So we don't store the Docker image itself. We only store a reference to a Docker image, the so-called image tag. We store descriptions and documentation and no binaries. And the same is for data sets. So we don't store complete data sets, only so-called data brokers that make the access possible for the pipeline to the data. It means that if there is proprietary or commercial content, it can be negotiated between the two parties, the provider and the user, how they agree to the license and do the commercial exchange and pay money and so on. But this is outside of AI for experiments. So here's an overview of the basic architecture. It is important to know that there is a strict separation between the AI for experiments instance, and there are multiple execution environments. So the pipelines are never executed inside AI for experiments. They are always executed in a user-controlled environment. So we have on the left-hand side, we have AI for experiment system, which provides the UI, the portal, and the Visual Studio called Acco Compose with core services and the database for the structured and file data. And then if the pipeline is configured, then it gets deployed to an execution environment. Usually it is the company IT of the user, which means that it is perfectly fine to access confidential data because the pipeline is running on the user's premises, for example, or in a user-controlled cloud environment. And it can also easily be integrated with MLOps workflows. So currently we support as execution environments Minikube, Kubernetes, and Kubernetes and GPU. Okay, I want to make now a small live demonstration. So if we look at the assets in the catalog, we see that there is a description, there is a license that details what are the conditions, and here is the protobuf definition, the signature of the...
Sorry, Martin. It might be that we see the wrong window. We still see your PowerPoint presentation, actually.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe you have to share the whole screen. Sorry for interrupting you.
Screen one. Okay.
Yeah, now we see the catalog. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for the hint. So each asset has a description, the license profile, and also the signature. So this is the protobuf definition of the public interface, which will be used, for example, by the Visual Studio to match the right inputs and outputs of the nodes. So if we look at the Visual Studio and you remember the pipeline that I showed just on the slide, we start with the audio file broker. And then we are wondering, okay, now what can be connected next? So I click on the output port. The black one is the output. It searches the matching models. And I see it's audio segmentation. And I can just drag it from the search results on the canvas. And then I can make the connection. And then I can search the next possible models that I can connect. For example, in this case, I can connect speech to text German, speech to text English, or speaker recognition. And in this way, I can step by step create my pipeline. And then if this is done, for example, I choose another pipeline that has already been saved and validated. So then I do the step deploy to local, and that gives me a solution file that I can deploy into my Kubernetes cluster. So this is the transition, and we are leaving here the AI for experiments central instance and going into a user-controlled execution environment. Okay, that was, so the deployment part that I just showed was here. And when we come to scalability, because we are using Docker, we can leverage all the possibilities that come with Docker and Kubernetes. So the same image, the same Docker image can be deployed and run in Minikube on a laptop or on a standard Kubernetes cluster or on a big Kubernetes cluster where you can just instantiate a lot of containers for your node. You just say, I don't want to run it one time. I want to have 10 containers of my tool. And it's also possible to use GPU acceleration, and modern tools like PyTorch and TensorFlow are even able to detect if a GPU is available. So it is possible really to use the same Docker image on non-GPU environments as well as to GPU accelerated environments. And it's also possible to do training if the model exposes the corresponding training services. And the benefits of using gRPC communication is that it is completely language independent. You can use the language you prefer. And you can also use any tools you want to use for your application in the container, and just you have to package it. It is simple and standardized, and it is fast. And what is very important, the communication stubs can be created dynamically at runtime, which enables the orchestrator to communicate with the nodes, even if it has never contact with it before. And this is, for example, not possible with RESTful communication. So that's one of the reasons why we use gRPC and protobuf, because the interface is really machine readable and can be used for generation. So what we also bring, and is part of the system, is the advanced orchestrator. So if the deployment client detects that a pipeline is deployed, not a single model, but a pipeline, then automatically our advanced parallel orchestrator is added to the deployment. And the orchestrator then does the message dispatching according to the pipeline definition. And thanks to gRPC, all the communication artifacts can be created at runtime, so it can communicate with pipelines it has never seen before. So there's no need for manual plumbing and coding you need, for example, in Kubeflow. We have streaming support for event-based use cases. So you can connect, for example, a camera that only sends images if motion is detected. And this image is then sent into the pipeline and processed on demand. Also, to communicate with robots, robot operating system, we have an integration for it. We support certain cyclic topologies, like you see here on the slide. It's not completely free, but certain cyclic topologies are supported. Then the parallel execution of messages is supported, and it's completely tool and programming language agnostic. So to my knowledge, there's no other platform like Amazon, SageMaker, or Google Cloud Engine, and so on. That offers similar features. So this is currently a unique selling point for AI4 Experiments and the European AI environment. So training pipelines. And here it is important that there is the train model method available, which enables a specific training node to control the training of a model. So in this case, the news classifier is the model that needs to be trained. And it is basically the same model that is used later for application, but it is connected in the training use case with a training data broker, which is able to control the training. We have also utility nodes. For example, very important, the shared folder if, for example, for video file processing, you have to exchange big binary files, and it doesn't make sense to send them by gRPC. So they can be stored into a shared folder that is accessible to all nodes of the pipeline. And there can be model initialization. This is a planned feature. And you can also connect a tensor board for diagnostic purposes. So if you want to see how the training goes, then you can connect a tensor board connector. We are also planning to have a Jupyter Connect set up so that you can choose a node that you want to try out, and you choose the Jupyter Connect deployment, and you will get a minimal pipeline where a Jupyter notebook is already connected to the chosen node, to the news classifier in this example, and you can directly start to use the communication methods that are defined in protobuf. Everything is set up, so this is easy then to do explorative and interactive computing and research with a certain model without manual work. So what are standard research use cases? So you can quickly configure and deploy training pipelines and change them very easily without doing coding. We are aiming also at hybrid AI pipelines that combine symbolic and sub-symbolic tools. The reproducibility of pipeline runs is also a planned feature. And of course, when we look at the ethical values of AI in Europe, it is important to have building blocks for explainable or verifiable AI. And we can also think about using AutoML to reconfigure the pipeline topology and parameters of a pipeline for each iteration. There are educational use cases. It's easy to explain AI concepts using pipelines. You can exchange solutions as tutorials. There can be hands-on exercises to implement parts of a pipeline. There can be live classes and exercises using the Jupyter Connect feature. And it's, of course, possible to collaborate on solutions in mixed teams. So you don't need to share everything in public. You can work privately in teams on certain solutions. There will also be a playground and demo space thanks to our collaboration with a regional AI initiative here in Germany, which is called KI NRW. And this will also be available beyond AI4EU and after the project ends, and we will also continue to operate the AI4EU Experiments systems. So what are the benefits for AI4EU media partners to contribute tools to the platform? Well, one of them is that we can go beyond the state of the art with the help of AI4EU Experiments. For example, it will be very interesting to work with you on hybrid AI components to define common interfaces for symbolic and sub-symbolic models that they can be interchanged and combined in different constellations. We can make proof of concept for interactions between deep learning and knowledge-based representations, add reasoning or SAT solvers to deep learning solutions. So this is, I think, a very, very interesting area and where we can go beyond state of the art. Also in the area of AutoML to automate hyperparameters for a whole pipeline, not only just a single model, for a whole pipeline, and to define ways for hybrid learning. So when we look at the hybrid AI components from the bullet point before, we can tackle the question, how do we then do AutoML for a hybrid AI pipeline and training setup? And then even go further in the area of cognitive architectures, find the building blocks and specify common interfaces for a whole cognitive architecture that will bring us beyond the current deep learning based systems. And what is also important, that AI for experiments is not the end, but the beginning of an evolution. So we have made the start, and now we need to start the evolution and make it better, and bring your ideas and your needs into the system you can contribute. So it's completely open source. The whole platform will be an Eclipse hosted open source project with clear governance. And let's exchange ideas and concepts as runnable and reusable artifacts. So I will conclude with a list of useful links to the system, of course. Then we have a lot of tutorials, pipelines, data brokers, also tools with Web UI that you can look at, a training example. There is, of course, then the homepage, and most important, the container specification that will make it possible for your tools to be executed by our orchestrator. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I give back to Laszlo.
Okay, thank you, Martin. I think this was great. For me, at least, it was super interesting to see how one can then easily combine different software components and modules. And I think the potential is almost endless. And I think this was super exciting.
Thank you.
To everyone, as in the first part of this workshop, I would like to invite everyone once again to post your questions in the chat. And we will then later collectively answer them in the Q&A session after our next two speakers. Our next speaker is
Laszlo, just
Jens.
a small comment, maybe?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I have seen one question in the Q&A session of this WebEx meeting, so maybe it's worth emphasizing again that the questions should be posted not in the Q&A session, but in the chat, please. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Andreas. So please post your questions in the chat box and not into the Q&A box. Please in the chat. Okay, coming to our next speaker. Jens Fissler is our next speaker, and he is the head of the Media Analysis Platforms Group in the Net Media Department of Fraunhofer IAIS. He studied computer science at the University of Dortmund and holds a PhD in computer science. With his group, he develops systems for automatic AI-based metadata generation and multimedia information retrieval. So welcome, Jens. The floor is yours.
Okay, so thank you, Laszlo, and welcome everyone. So I'll try to share my screen. Just give me a second. Now you should be able to see my screen.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
So now that we've learned about the AI4 Experiments platform, I would like to discuss ways how to integrate the AI4 Experiments platform with our Fraunhofer mining platform. But to discuss this, I first, of course, need to introduce you to. First, spend a few minutes on introducing you to the overall project as part of which the MAN platform is being developed, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about potentials for interoperability between AI4 Experiments and our mining platform, and finally I will conclude. So to give you the context for the development of our mining platform, at Fraunhofer IAIS, we are developing the audio mining speech recognition system for quite some time now, and it's in productive use at numerous companies, for example, media companies like big German broadcaster ARD. And due to our audio mining system, we initiated a strategic partnership with the WDR, which is a subsidy of ARD, as well as the ARD in the context of how to use artificial intelligence in the media sector. And so we're providing expertise and our scientific inputs to them. And as part of this strategic partnership, we're also part of developing the so-called Media Data Hub, which is a centralized metadata, or which is a centralized data hub for storing all kind of metadata about the different media in use at large broadcasters, like, for example, press articles, like information about radio broadcasts, about TV broadcasts, and so on. And what we're seeing here is an increasing demand for AI-based solution for content analysis. So, for example, a broadcaster usually has a lot of broadcast programs that have been sent a month ago or maybe even years ago, and wants to reuse this material for new productions. And the question then is how to find relevant material in the archive. And for that, one can, of course, use manually created metadata, but as everyone can easily understand, so it's very difficult and time consuming to annotate or to generate metadata manually for a lot of media files. So given that we have these high-performing AI models for some time now, the question is, how can we put these AI models to use to generate and extract metadata from the media files? And this is where the media mining platform comes in. So the goal for the mining platform is to automatically extract insights from media at scale. That is, to be able to process a lot of media files per day, so that ideally one can generate metadata from all media files that are in use at, for example, a broadcaster. What are the platforms? What are the features of a mining platform? So the mining platform is a multimodal system, and it, of course, uses AI-based models or AI-based analysis services for extracting the metadata. That is, we are integrating various AI-based services for extracting insights both from text, from audio, from images, and from video data. In order to be able to process ideally all the media files that are in use at a broadcast, and the mining platform itself needs to be scalable. And of course, it also needs to be extendable if we want to integrate new mining services, new models into the platform. And to that end, we're using a workflow-based system, which allows us to model the workflow necessary for analyzing media file, and which also allows us to customize these workflows. And we can also, like I already said, integrate new models more easily into the overall platform. In order to be scalable, the mining platform itself is running, or is designed to be deployed on a Kubernetes cluster, and so to be easily scalable on this cluster. And this cluster itself can either be hosted in the cloud, or it can be hosted on premises, which is very important for data sovereignty. And the mining platform itself is implementing a REST API, and hence it can be easily integrated into larger systems and into larger workflows. So the mining platform is already in productive use, and right now it's processing about 100 or 200,000 media assets per day. But we've run some tests, and on the same hardware, it can easily process about 1 million media assets per day. And it's an ongoing development, and we're continuing developing both the platform as well as the mining services themselves to make them make the results more usable to the users at our customer, at the broadcaster. So now I would like to tell you a little bit about the use cases, or about more or less one use case for the mining platform, which is cross-media search application. So I've mentioned this media data hub system at the beginning of my talk, and this cross-media search application allows the user to search, like the name says, across different media modalities. So the user can use one and the same application to search for press articles, to search for radio programs, to search for TV shows. And the search fundamentally is based on metadata that has been manually annotated, and in order to allow the users to also perform some content-based search, all the media assets that are ingested into these cross-media search applications are now automatically processed by the mining platform. So depending on the modality, we're performing different analysis steps. And once this analysis is done, the extracted metadata is played back to the search application and used and stored in corresponding indices, and then it can be used to search for matching media assets across all the data that is stored in this cross-media search application. Now I would like to talk a little bit more about the mining platform itself, as well as its services, and to give you some more details about the technical or about the design of the mining platform. So this is a high-level overview of the overall system architecture and the components of the mining platform. So the mining platform is depicted here in this light green box, and the core of the mining platform is the workflows component, which orchestrates the various processing steps. So we have to download the media assets from the different source files. Then we have to invoke the various mining services for analyzing the media files, and then we have to retrieve the extracted metadata from the mining services and ultimately store this metadata in a metadata store. So this is the responsibility of this workflows component, and I've already mentioned the mining services, and we're supporting two different kinds of mining services. So on the one hand, we have the so-called internal mining services, which are more closely on a more close control of the mining platform and can benefit from certain features of the mining platform. But of course, these internal mining services, in order to benefit from the platform, they need to implement a certain interface and adhere to certain constraints. But on the other hand, we didn't want to preclude integration of other so-called external mining services. So there might be services that we want to use, but which are only hosted by a company on the web. So we need to be able to communicate with that service as well. And to this end, we have also created the concept of external mining services, which are not under our close control, but which can also be integrated into the overall mining workflows. And on the left-hand side, I've depicted the REST API, which is, like I said before, used by all the systems that want to use the mining platform. So by archival systems, by production systems, planning systems, so basically any kinds of systems. And so how is a workflow, or how is a media asset processed? So how is the processing orchestrated? For that, we're using a BPM Anom workflow engine for orchestrating the various processing steps I've mentioned before. That is the essence download, the invocation of the mining service, and so on. So you don't need to, or I don't expect you to understand this diagram I've shown on the bottom half of the slide. But I just want to demonstrate to you that in order to reliably process the media file, we need to take some certain measures so we need to be able to repeat certain processing steps. We need to be able to handle errors and so on. But we don't want to model all of our workflows at this level of detail. And to that end, we have designed a so-called domain-specific language, which basically allows us to model the high-level steps I've mentioned: the download of the essence, the invocation of a mining service, the retrieval of a mining service, as well as storing of a mining service. And this domain-specific language is not set in stone, so we're continuously extending this domain-specific language. For example, now we're extending it to support optional processing steps based on certain conditions. Some steps might be skipped. And so this is an ongoing effort to continue the development of this domain-specific language. However, this domain-specific language also allows us to flexibly combine different processing steps. For example, we can combine an entity recognition step with an entity disambiguation. So if one has a text and wants to detect named entities in this text, some entities might be ambiguous. It might not be clear which person is meant when a certain name is mentioned there. And for that, we're using a system that allows us to disambiguate this entity and also to link this entity to an external knowledge base, for example. Another idea for more complex processing workflow might be to perform speech recognition and then perform certain text mining steps on the transcript that has been generated. For example, to use named entity recognition or also maybe extract keywords from the text and so on. And in order to be able to process all of the media files, we're also using a special scheduler for resource management and for prioritization of the different processing steps. So the mining platform also supports different levels of priorities for processing media files. So for example, certain users might need the results more or less immediately within a few minutes so that they can continue with their work. But for example, analyzing archive data, that is basically not that important and it's allowed to take some time. So what kind of AI-based services have we already integrated? So we have integrated quite a few text mining services. We have integrated service for keyword extraction, for named entity recognition, for entity disambiguation and linking, which I've just explained. We have a service for tagging text, for adding certain text to a text. And we are also integrated topic modeling mining service for text mining. For audio mining, we've integrated the audio mining system I've mentioned at the beginning of my talk, which is a tried and tested technology, which is also continuously improved. And we're also, or the colleagues that are developing our audio mining system are also continuously integrating new services into our audio mining system, like speaker recognition, language detection. So this person is speaking German or English. And so it's also an ongoing development effort. And as part of another project, we're developing a few image and video mining services. So we already have a face detection and recognition service. We now have an object detection service almost ready. And we're also developing a concept detection service, which allows us to detect, for example, certain kinds of scenery, outdoor, indoor scene, forest or in the office or whatever. And we're also developing a cut and scene detection service, which would allow us to temporarily partition a video and to process the different scenes independently from each other. So basically to parallelize processing of a video file. So now I've spent some time introducing you to the mining platform, and maybe you got some idea, okay, this sounds quite similar to what AI4Experiment is doing, or at least there are some overlap. So why do we want to achieve a certain level of interoperability between the mining platform and the AI4Experiments? So one reason is that we want to benefit from all these assets that are available in AI4Experiments. So we want to be able to integrate certain kind of pipelines as mining services in the mining platform if, for example, there are interesting video or audio mining services that we want to integrate into the mining platform. So we want to basically be able to quickly integrate new mining services that are provided by third parties. But on the other hand, we also want to make certain or some of our video mining services available for AI4Experiments. So these are tried and tested services. They are in use or they're in productive use. And we might also want to benefit from the training facilities of AI4Experiments because we need to update our models and we don't want to implement all the necessary infrastructure ourselves. So these are two reasons, or some of the reasons for trying to achieve interoperability between AI4Experiments and the MAN platform. However, there's no free lunch, so achieving this interoperability is not free. And the most important, or the largest hurdle is that the MAN platform as well as AI4Experiment use different kind of interfaces, and these interfaces need to be adapted in order to achieve some level of interoperability. So this I would like to talk a little bit more about. And first, I would like to give an idea how an AI4Experiments pipeline could be integrated into the mining platform. So here I've depicted more or less a prototypical mining workflow. We need to download the asset, then usually we're invoking a certain mining service. We retrieve the result from the mining service, then we persist the result, and then we're done. However, if we want to integrate in an AI4Experiments pipeline, we would need to execute the whole pipeline as part of our workflow. That is, instead of invoking a mining service, we need to execute the pipeline. And the difficulty is that these AI4Experiments pipelines are quite flexible. So Martin has explained this in the previous talk, that every AI4Experiments component defines its own interface. And so more or less what AI4Experiments supports more or less arbitrary or a lot of different interfaces, much more interfaces than are supported by the mining platform. So in order to be able to integrate an AI4Experiments pipeline into the mining platform, we need to impose certain constraints on the input and on the output of this pipeline. That is, we need to define an interface for the data broker. I've called it asset broker here. So this is the component that will provide the input data, that is the media asset, to the rest of the pipeline. And then at the end of the pipeline, we need some MPEG-7 document as output. So these are the two interfaces that we are specifying, and between these interfaces, basically the pipeline can contain anything that is supported by AI4Experiments. But these are the constraints we need to impose in order to be able to integrate this pipeline into the mining platform. So that is one direction of integration. And the other direction of integration would be to use mining services as AI4Experiments components. And for this, we have basically two alternatives. So the mining services we're using in the mining platform, they're implementing a REST interface. And as Martin has mentioned before, using a REST interface makes it difficult to automatically detect which components can be plugged together. So in order to be able to use our mining services in the AI4Experiments platform, we need to adapt the REST interface and provide a suitable gRPC interface for that. And there are two alternative approaches to achieve that. One approach, which I've depicted here in diagram A, is to deploy a so-called sidecar container with the mining service itself. So for this, the mining service would implement its REST interface, and this REST interface would then be used by a so-called mining service sidecar, which basically adapts this REST interface to gRPC. And the sidecar container would need to be provided by us so that we can specify how to adapt the REST interface to gRPC. The advantage of this approach is that we can provide one sidecar and use the same sidecar for different kind of mining services. However, it might complicate deployment because one needs to deploy the sidecar with all mining services, and I don't know difficulties would occur in AI4 experiments if we want to use that approach. However, an alternative approach would be to provide different kinds of mining service containers. So the mining services we're using in the mining platform, they are developed using different so-called mining service frameworks. That is, we're not implementing this REST interface from scratch anytime we're implementing a new mining service, but we are using a mining service framework and only implementing certain interfaces that are defined by this framework when we integrate new models as a mining service. And this could be another approach to integrate mining services into the mining platform. That is, we would need to actually implement different mining service frameworks, which instead of implementing the mining service REST API, would implement a suitable gRPC API. However, the disadvantage of this approach would be that we would need to provide different containers for the same mining service. So we would need to provide one container for use in the mining platform and another container to use this mining service for AI4 experiments. So these are the two alternatives for integrating AI4 experiments and the mining platform. So I see a lot of potential synergies between the mining platform and AI4 experiments because hopefully this became clear from my talk before. So we can provide some additional resources to AI4 experiments, but we can also benefit from resources already available or that might be made available in AI4 experiments. And we can also benefit from, for the mining platform itself, we can definitely benefit from the training infrastructure. And I think both projects can benefit from each other by learning from each other, by learning about the use cases. And for example, AI4 experiments could learn more about the use cases that come up when developing new mining services or when training new models, and maybe even benefit from this to cater to other use case scenarios then. But of course, there are still a lot of technical challenges for integration, but it's definitely worthwhile tackling these. And with that, I would like to conclude my talk and thank you for your attention. Stop sharing now.
Thank you, Jens, very much for your presentation and giving insight into your work of mining platforms and how this could be integrated and cooperate with the AI4EU Experiments platform. Thank you very much. Again, to everyone, please post your questions if you have some in the chat. We are coming now to our last speaker of today, which is Andreas Steenpass. Andreas is a research engineer, also at the NetMedia department at Fraunhofer IAIS. He studied mathematics and received his PhD from TU Kaiserslautern in 2014. After 5 years as a postdoc in computer algebra and algebraic geometry, he joined Fraunhofer in 2019, working on media analysis platforms. And since 2021, he is also involved in AI4Media Work Package 7. Welcome, Andreas. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Laszlo, for the kind introduction. So let me share my screen. It's this one. Share it. And now you should be able to see my PowerPoint presentation. I will turn it full screen now. I have to switch this around. So now you should be able to see my slides, right? Perfect. So this tutorial is about integrating AI4Media modules into AI4EU experiments. And the goal of this tutorial is to enable the participants of this workshop to integrate their own modules into this platform. And for this tutorial, the focus will be on the implementation rather than the deployment. I will also tell you a bit about the deployment, but not too much. So here on the bottom half of this slide, you see on the left-hand side, the Java code snippet. That's a public method called classify. And this method takes a news text represented by a string as input and then outputs the relevant news category. So given that you have implemented such a method, you see just a toy implementation of this here. This tutorial will be about how you get this functionality into the AI4EU Experiments marketplace. And once you have integrated it there, it could look like the asset you see on the right-hand side. So there you see a news classifier from the marketplace, which had been uploaded by Martin just a few months ago. So let's first have a look at the overview of the integration process. Here, the first step is that you define your modules. And I will come to this in a moment, why this step is very important. So once you have defined your modules, then the next step is the publication in the AI Catalogue. So here, Gabriel has already told you a bit about this. And I will go into more details here in this presentation. So we will look at the registration, we will look at required and recommended fields, and we will also look at the process for uploading. So once your asset is published in the AI Catalogue, it could look like this image here on the right-hand side. Do you see my mouse pointer? Yes. Okay. So once this is published in the catalog, then the third step is the technical integration into AI4EU Experiments. So here we will look at resources and documentation. We will look at the registration process again. We will look at how to define the protobuf signature and how to implement then the given API. And we will also look once again at the upload to the marketplace. And then once this is integrated, so here you see the same asset from the AI Catalogue, but now you see it here at the bottom of the right-hand side of the slide as a module in the AI4EU marketplace. So this is just the catalog here. This is the technical integration. And then the fourth step is, of course, optional, but once you are done with this, you are also invited to give a presentation about your module at the AI4EU Web Café. Okay, so let's start with the first step. You have to define your modules. As Martin has already told you, modules, or as they are called in the AI4EU Experiments context, models, are the building blocks for the AI pipelines. You have seen the audio pipeline, which is depicted on this slide in Martin's talk already. And here you also see the different modules or modules that are models that are used in this pipeline. You see again the audio segmentation, the audio speaker recognition. You see the speech-to-text transcription here in German, the audio punctuation, and so on. So these are the models that we are talking about here. So this whole pipeline could have been implemented as just one model, but that doesn't make sense because here the main criterion is really reusability. So for example, the speaker recognition definitely could also be used in other contexts. And the same is true for speech-to-text transcription. So here in this case, it really makes sense to separate these modules from each other, to put them even in different repositories, I would recommend, and then you can reuse them in other pipelines too. So for each of these modules, you have to define the input and output, and you have to do this very carefully. So we have seen this here already. Here, the input would just be a string, and then the output would be a news category, which is, as you can see here, something defined by a category code and the category text. And if you fail at this step, then I can tell you, you will run into problems at the next step. And this step actually has nothing to do with the platform itself. It's just about bringing, I would say, your modules into the right shape. And even your modules will benefit from this step. But on the other hand, this step might also be the most work of the whole integration. So I really recommend that you do this step carefully. So now once you have defined your modules, we come to the next step. Now you would publish them in the AI Catalogue. For this, you first have to register. Gabriel has already told you a bit about this. So you go to the home page of the AI on-demand platform, you go to login and then choose the EU login. I can also show you this in my browser. I hope that this works now for the presentation. So you should now see my browser in full screen here. Yes. Okay. So here is the home page of the AI on-demand platform. You click on this login button here. Unfortunately for my account, I have an EU login, but my account doesn't work because I also have a management account here. And it seems that these two accounts interfere for now. So for this presentation, I will use my management account. So I will click here while you will later on click here if you want to publish your modules. So here, my credentials are already filled in. I click on login. And now you, with the EU login, will probably not see this frame here. You will only see this page here. So now you can click on this button here, submit new content. And then this is what Gabriel has already talked about. So you can, for example, add a new organization, you can add a new case study, you can add news entries, events, and so on. But so the entry that is important for us is here, you can add new AI assets. But I will tell you more about this later on. Let's first go back to the slides. So maybe the information that I've put here on the slides is not even completely up to date. So the UE login I've written here will be functional too soon. It is actually functional, so you can try it out now. And the beta testing phase will be announced to members of AI4Media and other ICT 48539 projects. And after the beta testing phase, as far as I know to my best knowledge, the access will even be made public. So anybody can just upload AI assets in this catalog. But of course, the assets will be approved before they are published on the homepage. So here on the left-hand side, you see how such an asset then looks in the catalog. You see the complete picture. The only required fields here are the title, the summary, and the main characteristics. But of course, it's very much recommended that you fill in all the fields here and you also give it some text and so on. And I would like to list here on the slide some fields that have to be considered carefully from my point of view. So this is the image, the license, and the website of these assets, and then also the GDPR requirements and the relation to trustworthy AI. So I would also like to show you this in my browser. So I go back here. So you find this AI Catalogue here under Research, AI Catalogue, and search for it. No, there's a small typo, sorry for that. No, it's not test to visual, it's text to visual, of course. So here's the asset that I was talking about. Here you see it in my browser. So you see all the information included here. And here at the bottom of this asset, you see some comments on the relation to trustworthy AI. And you also see the GDPR requirements. And most importantly, this asset is already linked to the AI4Media project here. So let's go back to the slides. Go to the next slide. Now I come back to the process for uploading. Actually, this uploading process is straightforward. I think, to my best knowledge, that it is opened for me because I have this management account, but it is not yet opened to the beta testers. Just a small hint for the uploading process. So the image should have a ratio of 16:9 so that it can be well displayed. The assets can be saved as drafts first and then be changed later on. And I would also like to list some good examples here, which you can use as templates. So for example, the AI for visual vehicle countings is such a good example, or the one that we have just looked at, the text to visual search engine, or also the Lionets, which comes from a different project. And then, of course, very important, you should also respect the copyright of everything you upload. And please, if your asset comes from the context of AI4Media, then do not forget to link your asset to AI4Media. So now I have to switch a bit forth and back. I would like to show you also that in my browser. For this, I go here back to my profile. Again, I click on Submit New Content. So now we come to this section here. You can just add a new AI asset. Click on Edit. And then here you see this form, which has also been on my slide. So here you can fill in the title, the summary, the main characteristics. You can provide some tags. You can provide a license, a website, so on. So this is really straightforward. It's just about filling in this form. Let's go back to the slides. And that's already it for the publication in the AI Catalogue. So once you have published it here, then it will be approved and it will appear on the homepage. So now let's go to the next part, which is then the technical integration into AI4EU Experiments. And for this, I would like to start with some resources and documentation, and some of these links listed here you have already seen in Martin's presentation. And you don't have to take notes, of course, so I guess the slides will be available later on the homepage of this workshop, or you can just send me an email and I will send them back to you. And here you see the link to the homepage of the AI4 Experiments project. You see a link to the Acomos wiki. And this link you will also find on the homepage, of course. And what is very, very important are the examples in the container specification. So especially the examples help me a lot to understand the platform. You find them on GitHub. And then I can also recommend the YouTube playlist on AI4EU Experiments, which is also listed here. And then there are two more links which were not in Martin's presentation, but which were important for me to get something done in this platform. So you see a link to the documentation of protocol buffers here and to the gRPC protocol. And if all of this doesn't help, then you can still send an email. You can still get direct support at this email address, and then it will probably end up on Martin's desk. Or, of course, you can also send an email to me directly. So far for the resources and documentation. So now again, unfortunately, you have to register once more. So for now, you just need an extra account for AI4EU Experiments. But the login is also very straightforward, and so the account will be approved very, very fast. But Martin is already working on, as he has already said in his presentation, on the EU login, so that this gets integrated into AI4EU Experiments as well. And this will be hopefully available soon. Yeah, so I will not show the registration now in the browser. Let's go to the next slide. Now it gets a bit technical, but I really want to go through this for this tutorial. So I have created a toy example, and we will now look at the different steps, how this functionality can be integrated into AI4EU Experiments. So here you see a Java method again. which is called count occurrences, and it does a very, very stupid thing, which has nothing to do with AI, of course, but as I said, it's just a toy example. So it takes two arguments. It takes a document represented as a string and also a keyword represented as a string, and then it just counts how many times this keyword appears in the document and outputs this as an integer. And if you use Apache Commons, for example, this can be implemented in one line. As I said, it's all only a toy example. So we will look at this now. When you have this functionality, you want to get it into AI4EU Experiments, then the first thing you have to do, you have to define the protobuf signature. And this file then could look like this. So here you see that the syntax definition says proto3, so it's the third version of this protocol. You see the definition of two message types here. The first one is the keyword counting requests. It consists of two strings, the document and the keyword. So this will constitute the request then. And then the keyword counting result will just be an integer, and we call it number of occurrences here. So this part here is the pure protocol buffers part of this file. And then comes the gRPC extension where we define the remote procedure call. So we have a service here called keyword counter, if you like, and there's one method called count, which takes the keyword counting request and just returns the keyword counting result. So you see, this is also very straightforward, and it's very much adapted to what we had here on the previous slide. So there's actually no new information. It's just a new way of encoding the information, which has already been here in this API. So now you save this file in your repository, maybe under this path. And then you have to use the protocol buffers compiler code protoc to generate the classes for this interface. At least you have to do this in Java. In other languages, it might be a bit different. And because I cannot cover all the languages here, I will stick to the Java example, and then you can also look this up in the gRPC documentation. You can do this manually, calling this protoc compiler on the command line, but if you use for a Java project, maybe Maven or Gradle, then you can also just include some code snippets in your build files, and then it will just work out of the box. And it works very similarly for other languages, such as Python, very important in the AI context, and Go, C++, Ruby, and many more. Just have a look at the homepage. So now, once you have defined this protocol buffer signature, now you have to implement the API that is defined by this file. And this is probably the most technical slide that I have in my presentation. So here we have a public class called keyword counter, which now implements one of the classes generated by this proto compiler. And this class is called keyword counter input base. And here you have to, no, it doesn't implement this, it extends it, sorry. Here you have to override the method called count. And this method will then take the keyword counting request as an argument and also something called the response observer. And then the implementation can be very, very simple. So you just call the method that you already had from the beginning, the count occurrences method here, and you get the arguments directly from the request. You save the result, and then you store the result as a keyword counting result type. And for this, you can use, for example, this builder pattern here. So you just call set number of occurrences. And then you append this result to the response observer by these two method calls here. And that's already it. That is the whole implementation for our toy example. So as you can see, it's very, very simple. So once you have done this, then you are already done with the implementation part. Now you have to Dockerize your model, and here I can only emphasize what Martin already said. For this, the container specification will help you. And then you have to fill in the form available at onboarding model. So this I would also like to show you in my browser. For this, I will use a different window not to interfere with the different logins. So here, once you are logged in AI4EU Experiments, you see your name appearing here. So it's the sign that you are logged in. You click on the left-hand side on onboarding model, and then this form will appear. And here you have to fill in the model name. You have to fill in some host. So I just used a toy example here again, some port, and you give it the image name and the tag of your image. And then very importantly, you upload the protobuf signature that we had just defined. I did this here already, so you can see this file here, keyword counter proto. Then you click on upload, and then you also have to specify a license profile. So you click on this checkbox here. You can either upload a license yourself, or you can select a predefined profile here. So for example, you can select the Apache 2.0 license, and then you should also click on modify, because otherwise this onboard model button here is grayed out. You click on modify, then you can fill in all the details. So the year, the company, the name, the URL, email, and so on, contact details. Click on save. And now you see that I could click on onboard model here, but I won't do this now. So if you do this, then you have to wait for these three signs here to become green. And then you can access your model under My Models here. So, but first I want to go back to the slides. Yeah, as I said, you have to fill in this form available at onboarding model. Then you access the uploaded model in the section My Models, and you publish it to the marketplace. So then you get this, My Models. I did this yesterday already for this toy example. So now you see this keyword counter here. I can click on it. Takes some seconds to load. You can see here the example information that I had entered in the form. Now you can click here on Manage My Model and Publish to Marketplace. So here there are two options. There's a restricted one and a public one. Of course, you should choose the public. And then again, you fill in some details here. And at the very bottom, you can click on Submit to Publication, but I won't do this now. So as you can see, also this process is very, very simple. Let's go back to my slides. And then I will just quickly go over this one here because Martin has already told you about it. Once you have uploaded your model to the public marketplace, you can go to Design Studio and then choose Echo Compose, and then you can just compose your own pipelines. And here I already have a question which we can maybe discuss after this tutorial. So for Martin, for you, is it actually possible to design such pipelines in a text file without the Echo Compose Studio? So I'm just now wondering about this. Yeah, and then if you are done with your model, you just click on deploy. Martin has shown you this. You can download something called a solution zip file and then deploy this file to your own cluster, so which can be Minikube or your Kubernetes cluster or whatever. Okay, so that's already it for the technical integration. Then you have your pipelines running in your cluster. Now, the last and optional step is to present your module at the AI4EU Web Cafe. So this is the community building part of the AI on-demand platform, and it is offering a series of live web sessions on AI. You can see the logo here on the right-hand side of the screen. The goal is to gain insights into the international AI scene, to share knowledge and experiences, and to meet stakeholders from various areas of AI research and applications. The recordings of past web cafes are available on GoToStage, which is also a great repository, I would say, of the knowledge which we have gathered in the different projects. And you see a screenshot of one such recording on the right-hand side. At the bottom of this slide, I've listed some resources which are relevant for this web cafe. And if you are interested in getting notifications or even giving a presentation yourself, then just send an email to carmen@grassrootarts.eu. So that was the whole integration process from defining your modules to the publication in the AI Catalogue, which is then not yet the technical integration. The technical integration is the third step listed here. So that is the integration into AI4EU Experiments. And then we have also briefly looked at the fourth optional step, giving a presentation at the AI4EU Web Cafe. Then I have two more slides, which are a bit more directed to the members of the AI4Media project. So first of all, I want to comment on some views on AI4EU Experiments, which I have heard in the past. So I have heard, for example, something like this: integrating my module into AI4EU Experiments means to implement yet another API. So I would say this is actually not completely right. There is actually no fixed API to be implemented. Actually, you only expose the existing API of your module to this platform via gRPC. So there's no extra API of AI4EU Experiments or something like this. Then the second phrase that I have heard in the past is, well, integration into AI4EU Experiments is a lot of work and we simply don't have the resources for this. Well, I hope that I could show to you in this presentation here that the integration is actually pretty easy. So if your module is well prepared, and that might be the most work in the whole integration process, then it will take you less than a day. And if you get used to it, so if you do this maybe for the third or for the fifth time, then it will even take less than just a few hours, I would say. Yeah. So maybe we can also talk about this a bit more in the Q&A session following this tutorial. And then to end this presentation, I would like to give an outlook for AI4Media partners specifically. There will soon be a playground available where you can deploy your pipelines for testing. So it's not for production, only for testing. This playground will also use the EU login, so no need for another account. And the current plan, as I have talked to Martin about this, is to open the playground at the end of March 2022. And then specifically to the AI4Media partners, I would like to ask you to just please go ahead, get a EU login, publish your assets in the AI Catalogue as soon as this gets available, the feature, and then design your own AI pipelines and integrate the relevant modules into this platform, into AI4EU Experiments. And now I would like to end this presentation with a question also for the following Q&A session. So how can we further support you with this? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for this tutorial. I think it was really insightful and it was clear, and you made it really clear also in the end with the views that it's quite easy to integrate modules. And I think this is super exciting and useful for also the AI4Media project. Yeah, now, as you already set it up, we are in the final Q&A session now. Same as the first Q&A session, I will first read the questions from the chat. And afterwards, then you have the chance to ask directly by raising your hand, and then I will request you to ask your questions. And please always remember to address who you want to address with your question. So please name the speaker. Okay, the first question from the chat was from D. Duske, who asked, I'm interested and working on a small project which could be located in the art market. I couldn't see that you have AI artists on your mind. Is this platform suitable for experimenting with AI art creation? It is particularly interesting if the platform is just concentrating on businesses or small entities like artists can use it as well. It would be nice to have an pendant to AIartists.org, which is hosted in the US. So this is a general question. Yeah. Whoever wants to address this, please go ahead.
So from a technical point of view, I think those assets can be uploaded and showcased on AI for Experiments. I'm not sure what the AI artist platform offers in addition. So maybe if it's also a showcase for the generated art, then this is something that we currently don't have. But you can easily onboard your art tools to the platform and let them execute in the playground or in the user's environment.
Thank you, Martin. Someone else want to elaborate, emphasize further on this?
Maybe more from the strategic perspective. I mean, it was more strategic goal to have a platform which is available for several domains. I mean, for several use cases, for business use cases like automotive, like retail, whatever. But there's no limitation to any other domain. I mean, it would be interesting to have also other domains in the platform. And it's really a question, which kind of tools do you want to onboard, which kind of data you need to process, and what is the execution environment at the end. So go ahead with this idea. So we're looking forward to receive your contribution.
Thank you. I see no further questions in the chat so far. So please, everyone who is interested in asking a question, please raise your hand and then I will request you to ask your question. Andreas, please.
Yeah. So Martin, what about the question that I've asked during the tutorial? So is it possible to define these pipelines independently of the Akku Compose, this visual design studio?
Well, actually, the representation of a pipeline and the output of the visual editor is a JSON file. So, of course, this can be used as also as an import into the design studio to define a pipeline. And it is also a very important part of the AutoML concept. So if during the execution of a pipeline, after a pipeline run, the pipeline can be reconfigured by writing a new version of the pipeline definition JSON file. So this is one of the very important concepts that make AutoML, I think, quite easy to implement with the whole orchestrator and execution ideas of AI for Experiments. But we have at the moment not the possibility to re-import a pipeline definition file into AI for Experiments, so it can be seen and edited into the visual editor, but I think that should be easy to add.
Okay, thank you, Martin.
Thanks.
I think the next person who raised the hand was Sven. So Sven, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for all the presentations. I think it's a very good starting point to really begin the integration of the assets everybody has. First, I have a small comment on Andreas' presentation, which is kind of an announcement. The AI4EU Web Cafés will continue under the umbrella of AI4Media in the next year, even if AI4Media is ending at the end of this year. So we will have a stronger focus on AI4Media technologies and assets, and this format will continue. And then there's a question to maybe Martin, maybe Gabriel, maybe everybody. The goal of Work Package 7 in AI4Media is to support the project partners to publish the AI resources on the AI on-demand platforms catalog and integrate them in the AI Experiments platform marketplace. And Jens talked a little bit about the benefits we see for achieving interoperability between the mining platform and the AI Experiments platform. Andreas gave a tutorial on how to integrate it, and I think all ICT 48 and 49 projects should have the ambition to contribute. But in our day-to-day project lives, it seems a tough job to convince the partners to do so. And so my questions are, what possibilities do we have to make the publication most attractive to all the partners involved in the projects? What could strengthen the motivation to contribute? And what could be the individual benefits for each partner so that we can make the AI experiments a really active marketplace? Do you have ideas? Please share.
I start. So when I made the same note on my list, how to create motivation. Yeah, and I think it's not so easy to say you have to do it now and tomorrow you have to finish this. Yeah, so I think that's not the right way. So we need really arguments, motivation, benefits to do that. And what are the benefits? So first, I have to say, in very nice, excellent presentations, we saw how to do this, and I think it's ready now. So we are really now in the stage to do this, and so it took a little bit of time. On the other hand, what could be the benefit? The benefit first, the resources are visible in Europe. And I'm pretty sure that this platform will continue for several years, 10, 20 years, maybe even longer. And that's a place where companies, where partners go. So you should be there. Yeah. So that's one motivation. The other is, of course, hopefully it makes it a little bit easier also than that if you work with AI Experiment platform, you can use it to run your AI innovation cycle. So you can run, you can use also other tools. So we saw this also in our department sometimes that maybe we double efforts to build a tool on natural language processing. So it's then even better if you find the appropriate tool and you don't have to do this. So you can use the tools which are already there. You have also access to data, and assuming this is a growing environment, you have access to more possibilities. So and of course at the end, we also see that it's sometimes a challenge if you want to scale up your application. So scalability comes with this kind of application. And maybe Martin and Laszlo can say a little bit more about this. So I think there are enough arguments, but of course, some effort you have to do. So not that much, as Andreas has shown, but you have to do some effort, but you can get something. And assuming that what I also said, that we have in the future, hopefully also more computational resources in the deployment environment, then you get also access to more computational resources. But this is not done yet, but this is planned also for the future, of course, and future projects. And I hope these are at least some arguments and motivation to do that. But maybe Alex want to continue. Some points.
Thank you, Joachim. Martin, do you want to add something?
Well, what my experience is from the work in AI4EU is that as soon as the partners get a little used to the idea of exchanging models, we really had inspiring talks, because the tools from different organizations and research labs get visible, and they can be discussed. It's easier to discuss them, and it really creates inspiration. So this is my recommendation, what benefits can be.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. Jens, you raised your hand, but I think Andreas, you raised your hand first. But please help me. Who was first? Then,
Andreas,
Jens, please go ahead.
Okay. So if we say that increasing visibility or discussion exchange between different researchers are two of the benefits, maybe these benefits could be supported, for example, by reaching out to more companies and maybe sending out emails or whatever, or maybe even a newsletter to present a particular solution on a weekly basis, or to highlight certain topics if there are multiple solutions available within a sub area. That might be one benefit for people. So if we want more groups, more people to supply or to upload or make their resources available on the platform, maybe these people can be supported in achieving more visibility. And the other point, Martin mentioned the point of yielding more discussions. Maybe this could also be fostered. Maybe we can have certain workshops where special interest groups can come together within certain sub areas of AI, like that tools you have already mentioned, Martin. Maybe we can help out with that. So fostering collaboration, discussion.
Thank you.
That's all.
Andreas?
Yeah, I have a question in the direction of Gabriel. I don't know if you're still listening, Gabriel. So I have said in my tutorial that the beta testing phase for uploading AI assets to the catalog will soon be opened for members for the ICT 48 and 49 projects, so especially for AI4Media partners. Can you say a bit about time schedule for this? So is there a deadline when this will be opened or something? I don't know if Gabriel is still listening. Seems not to be the case. Maybe he has to connect his audio system again first. Well then, as I said on my last slide, I don't know if there are many AI4Media partners around here in the WebEx meeting, but what would be especially interesting for me is to know, as I said, what else do you want from us to support you with this integration? So I don't know if there's someone around here willing to answer this, but that would be interesting, and that will also be, well, that will surely be discussed during the plenary meeting next week. AI4Media.
Thank you. Anyone has input on this to everyone? Okay, seems not to be the case. We still have 19 more minutes. If there are no other questions from your side, I had also a question. Okay, I'm sorry. Everyone else first. I see Sven also has a question. Please, Sven.
Thanks, but you could go ahead if you want.
No, I come last.
My question is regarding building pipelines. We are in the work package 7, we are about to build pipelines in the future. And the question is, which pipelines should we build? Which pipelines can already be built? Where are the necessary building bricks available? And more interesting, the question, what are the market-driven demands for building bricks? I mean, if there is someone out there who wants a certain service, he needs the building bricks for this service. And is there any place where these demands, these requirements are gathered so that partners could be identified that are in the position to contribute these building bricks? So Martin, do you have any ideas on this?
Well, it could be done maybe using the tags that can be given to a model. So even if you don't have the exact interface description, you can search models based on the tags that have been given to see if there's already a brick close to the one that you want to have, or you can contact someone on the platform that you see that might be able to provide such a brick.
Well, I would like to add something on this. I would like to put forward again the idea that I have really talked about in the first Q&A session. So it would be technically possible to have the marketplace on the one hand with the modules that are available, and then to have a separate catalog for this, for the demands, for the requests, where only the interfaces are uploaded. So someone could just say, I want the functionality that is described by this interface. And then this could be uploaded to this place. And then we could have something like a matchmaking tool, or providers of such technologies could just search in this place and see if they are willing to implement some of these functionalities. That would be technically feasible.
I think this is an excellent idea to provide this functionality and to allow users coming to the platform if they have an idea and that's the technical people then can deliver. But I think this is something we have to put on our list for the future. Yeah, and I like this idea a lot. So because this would also bring this innovation from the other side, so that there are demand of innovation, not only to push innovation from technology providers to users, that the users also generate demands. I think that's an excellent idea. So we should consider this when we elaborate on the platform.
Well, I would also like to add another comment. So Sven said earlier that the AI4EU Web Café will continue under the umbrella of AI4Media, and that is also true for some part of the development of AI4EU Experiments. So I think we still have to figure out the details, but it's clear that we will also use these resources for the further development.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience? Now would be the time final possibility to ask a question directly to the speakers. Okay, seems not to be the case. So I had one more question. Martin, you already had this in your presentation. It goes into the direction of, I would call it, general purpose building blocks that are probably very interesting for multiple projects. I see their possibilities, and you already mentioned some, like the Jupyter Notebook, which is interesting over multiple use cases, or a common interface you already mentioned. And I was wondering if there's also a possibility to have, let's say, a tool for the community to share their ideas on general purpose building blocks and then work on those collaboratively, because as I see it, the building blocks should be community driven, but some of them are probably multi-purpose. So how then could then be collaboratively worked on those general purpose building blocks?
This is an excellent question and a very important idea. So we already started a repository on the AI4EU GitHub account, which is called Interfaces, which is meant to collect proposals and suggestions for common interfaces. But we might also have a place in AI4 Experiments itself where we can present such interfaces, maybe in a separate catalog. But it depends on what is more suitable and will attract more interaction with all the users. So both possibilities are thinkable, but it's a very important point to create and discuss such common interfaces, which will, from my point of view, will really be a big step forward in creating the next generation of AI in Europe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Then I had one more question into the direction of AI4Media. I don't know who wants to answer this. It would be, are there any concrete ideas which kind of services or software could be integrated into the AI on-demand platform?
Yes, sure. Sven, do you want to answer? Should I answer for this? Well, for now, the first step is to get some pipelines running technically, and for us to get used to this platform. So this is the first step for us. But then soon after this, so at the beginning of the next year, which is only 1 or 2 months from now, we will very much focus on 2 aspects. So we will focus on the use cases in AI4Media and see which pipelines are needed there. That doesn't necessarily mean that all the use cases in AI4Media have to be implemented in AI4EU Experiments. But if we also get to run the use cases there, then it's of course very, very good, and that would be our goal. And then, well, the second aspect is that we have a lot of research-oriented work packages in AI4Media. And we will, of course, also focus on this. So we will focus on those assets, those modules to be integrated into the platform, which are most relevant from the research point of view, which had the greatest impact for research. So these are the 2 aspects that we will focus on.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any last thoughts and minds, ideas that you want to share? Otherwise, we would come to an end of this workshop.
I think that would be good. Let's come to an end and have lunch.
Okay. So I have one more kind request from the Fraunhofer side. We would like, for dissemination purposes, have a screenshot of the participants. So if it would be okay for everyone and who wants to be in the photo, I would take a screenshot. And if you could turn on the camera so we could see the diverse participants, it would be great. Thank you. I will go right ahead and quickly do a snapshot. Okay, I have it. Okay. Okay, I see more turned on camera, so let me repeat one more and then I let you all go. Thank you very much. Okay, I have it. Okay. Yeah, last words. I want to thank all the participants. I want to thank all the speakers, especially for their great presentations. Thank you to all the organizers of AI4Media. Thank you, Candela. Thank you, Sven. Thanks, Andreas. And thank you, Filareti. And to all I didn't mention, thank you. And I wish you all a good day.